bated breath to hear what Premier Lubalo Oscar Mabuyane will have to say about the plans of the Eastern Cape for this year 2022. We're not alone in studio as well. We are joined by two esteemed guests, I would say. We've got Dr. Andile Nonto, who is going to be helping us unpack some of the issues that we're going to be dealing with this evening. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, and good evening to the viewers at home.
It's great to have you here. Now, we've also joined in studio today by Mpuma Kapa, who is no stranger to issues surrounding the political sphere, and we're hoping to have good conversations with you about what we can expect for the Eastern Cape. Good evening to you.
Evening to you and the viewers of Mpuma Kapa. It's an honor to be here this evening.
It's great to have you here. Now, gentlemen, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Mpuma, in terms of what we can expect this evening. What are the things that you think that the Premier should really be looking into?
I like to use the word should as opposed to, trying to read a crystal ball as to what's in this in the SOPA. Obviously, there are always a number of things that we look at when we look at the state of the province address. First of all, we look at game-changing projects. I mean, there's no province that can succeed without always having those visionary, game-changing mega projects, while at the same time continuing to do what is necessary as far as the works of departments, making sure that they perform, and it will be good to get a sense of, from last year, what has been achieved per department, and also get a sense of these big projects that I'm talking about. Those are important because they sort of give a sense of we are pursuing big things that are game-changing for the province. What's happening, for example, to the hydropower project around Mzimvubu? We've spoken about that project for a very long time. What's happening as far as rail networks that link the province from a passenger and goods perspective, intermodal logistics improvements in the three ports. I mean, we are in a unique position as a province to have three ports, two of them within a 30-kilometer distance apart. So we need to see these huge investments that boost the capacity of our local economy to expand, but also one of the biggest things for me, which is a problem of how we do government and development, is the failure to leverage what is remaining of bottom-up solutions people are crafting for themselves to survive in ways that help them augment what they do to have impact on the systemic. So, for example, one of the things our province is doing, I think, fairly well, is beginning to do fairly well, is investing in agricultural commodities. So you'll find Matatiel, there'd be investments around grain. In fact, there's a strategy around a grain corridor. So we need more of those kinds of investments that bring people operating at the level of what Mbeki called the second economy, if you like, which in fact we rather call it the margins of South Africa's mainstream economy, and bring more of those people to participate and earn. I mean, one of the things that keep the community, for example, in Bizana, highly productive as far as, output in maize is concerned, from participating meaningfully in the economy, is not lack of production. It's that connects them to the markets. So it's those kinds of things that one is looking to hear. Mega infrastructure projects, works of departments, as well as enabling investments that get communities integrated into not only the local and provincial value chains, but the global value chain.
Dr. Nonto. Dr. Andile Nonto lo kinamadoda. Nawe ndiya nqonela ukhendive into ba wena ucinga ba uzawugxila kwimiba ethini mhlawumbi ngokwale ntetho lo mtyangapotetho wakhe uNkulumbuso uMabuyane.
Thank you very much, Msasasi. Mna ndijonge uba uPremier xa ethetha namhlanje angabikho kude from what the president has said kwi-national speech. Remember, basuke embuthweni omnye. Kodwa ke ngoku nathi narrow it down to his province because the provinces are not the same. Eastern Cape unemployment is high. Also same as national youth is about 70 to 80% unemployment. Concentrated this unemployment in the east part of the Eastern Cape. As uXawame sitsho, projects, mega projects. Do we have cutting edge projects? The president has been talking about umzimvuko that uXawame has mentioned. Kudala kulindiwe. There's SEZ, there's Ikucha, there's ITZ, there's SEZ that has been identified next to Mthatha Airport to change the situation in that area. It is also known that the head office of cannabis is in the Ponderland. Now, what are we going to do about those projects? Are we still going to be talking and talking? How do we convert this talking into action? Sijonge action wonke umuntu 7.2 million abantu bajonge i-action uba upremier wethu uzawuthini nge-Port St. John's Harbour. A harbour can change situation that side. Uzawuthini upremier nge-815 or 819 kilometer of sea in this region. Izawuyeka uthethwa loo nto. Practical, are we going to have a processing plant at Port St. John's? Upremier ndimjongile uba there is an issue about Ikolobeni. There's an issue about gas and oil. Uzawuthini upremier xa ipronounce because business belacala they are saying thina asityi izilwanyana ezintakumbi kuthiwa zawuphazanyiswa pha. You weigh production, agricultural production versus mining. We know Botswana have got shares with DPS. I-government, they are shareholders in the actual business. We are buy iron ore from Northern Cape, iyongena kula hapa. Uba ibingonongangeni ishiyeke pha Northern Cape, kuvula plant, kuconvertwe la iron ore into products that are here. Uzawuthini upremier ngeyakhe. Apha Eastern Cape kukho i-uranium eTabankulu. KweThwani nge-nickel esensizwa. IThwani white marble ese-Port St. John's. IThwani black marble eseCentane. IThwani i-coal ese-Elliot. Sizawunyamezela kusithiwa uba ke nayivula lo mining yase-Eastern Cape, who will do mining eMpumalanga ne-Northwest? Because ii-labour zapha zezalapha. Yile nto kuthethwa isiXhosa kwezamarikana kakhulu. So into yendlala yalapha e-Eastern Cape is man-made. In education, how many technical high schools do we have in the Eastern Cape?
Dr. Nonto, we're going to be getting into all of that. And you can hear just from our guests the level of conversation that we're going to be having this evening around the expectations of the Eastern Cape. This is the State of the Province address. It's the special broadcast. Now, this evening, we're going to have a police parade as per normal. You remember that last year that the State of the Province address was held virtually. But this year it is happening in person, of course, with all COVID protocols observed. The parade is, of course, formed up under the command of Warrant Officer Sean Davids. You can see that the gallery is also ready. We're waiting to hear from the Premier, and we're going to continue with conversations around what it is that we can expect this evening. Now, Ongalm, I'm going to come back to you. This State of the Province address comes, hot off the heels of the State of the Nation address. And one of the things that the President mentioned, which I think we cannot not mention, was the burning of Parliament. He spoke about that being symbolic of devastation in the country. Now, when we look at the Eastern Cape, where does the Eastern Cape fall in terms of its level of devastation as a province?
So if you look at the data on levels of income in the province, employment, as well as gross geographic product of the province, you will find that we are among the poorest in South Africa, competing with Limpopo and Northwest and others. So it's a little bit of it's a huge problem. The problems of unemployment, inequality, and poverty are huge here. What's interesting, though, is that we say this in political science, that when there's a permissive environment for something, it doesn't necessarily it will break out unless there are agitators that rise and play. I'm making reference to this because I was highlighting the burning of Parliament was within that time-ticking bomb thesis. At what point will the frustration with an unworkable economy trigger violence? We've seen with the outbreak in July last year that the Eastern Cape has got a degree of respect for its own sources of income, in the sense that when attempts were made in Mthatha and Port Elizabeth to try and to try and agitate for the things that we were seeing in KZN, and in fact all the way to Mpuma, people stood up and actually defended public infrastructure. So what I've said that to say we've seen a relative degree of patience enough in the province, which needs to be matched by politicians that are bold. I quite liked what Dr. Nkonzo was saying Nkonzo was saying, in the sense that those projects, I mean, if we get them, they revitalize not just the coastal areas, but the hinterland as well. It's not right that we import some products in the province from the rest of South Africa. We should be the food basket, not of the country, but of the region itself. So there's a lot that's required. We used to be, there's nothing that pains me as seeing the state of education in this province. We used to educate the continent. We have presidents that came and got educated in the University of Fort Hare. So we need to reclaim that legacy. Obviously, it was partnership between government, church, private stakeholders, and there's no way we're going to get education without restoring that partnership. So I think for me, with the pain threshold of the people of this province is wide enough that government needs to act, and act soon, in honor of how people in this province have actually waited and created the space for politicians to make all the mistakes that they have, without a revolution, if you like.
Yabo namhlanje kuzacaca namhlanje kuba iphondo leMpuma Kapa lipanwe yintoni ingenzekiyo bifamba yenzeka kwenza ba sizondanda emafini kwakhona sifuna uba semagqabini ukanti ngoku ngalomzuzu sizake siphosa indaba ke pha ngaphandle ulumka bheka indaba selengqakile ke zasibalisela ba kuqhubeka ntoni apha khoyo lumka
Kakhulu Mr. Magoda ufika kanye xa befika abaphathiswa bephondo leMpuma Kapa kwakunye namalungu endlu yowiso mthetho bayangena ke nabanye abantu into etsho into bana noko sesukufutshane exesheni lobana ibe iyaqalisa i-state of the province namhlanje ekulindeleke njengoko kwesizothi senziwe yinkulu baphathiswa ephondo leMpuma Kapa uOscar Lubabalo Mabuyane namhlanje ke yenye yemini abayijonge ngamehlo abantu beliphondo leMpuma Kapa nabalindele kuva izinto ezothi zibe lutshintsho ezizokwenziwa apha kwiphondo leMpuma Kapa. Lelethu, this is the day we've been waiting for.
Yes, definitely, Lumka. I mean, we are here in Bhisho, which is the capital of the Eastern Cape, and we're standing outside the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature, where we are awaiting with bated breath the address of Premier Lubabalo Oscar Mabuyane. And as you guys can see, I mean, it's quite a hustle and bustle, and it's undoubtedly a very exciting occasion because, as we know, as Uzikona has said prior, that last year's State of the Province address was much different due to the advent of COVID-19. But today, people have come out and guests are starting to trickle in, dressed to the nines. So we're quite excited to hear what Premier Lubabalo Oscar Mabuyane will have in store for us today. And Dombakalo, what do you think the Premier will address today? What are some of the key points that you think will be highlighted?
Mandiqale ngokuthi gqawam njengoba usowutshilo wathi lo nyaka ufana kunyaka ophelileyo udiya kulo nyaka uphelileyo ihlinze wazixhomela ngokwakhe eyenza lento ngobuxhakaxhaka beteknoloji virtually ukutsho bekungekho mntu lapha kodwa namhlanje siyabona abasemagunyeni aphezulu banxibile bahle nomozulu yona ke iyasivumela kwaye ikhona nje nomoya notswebayo kodwa ke awuthi abantu babangabikho lapha kodwa ke xa sijongile siyababona MSC bekhokta balapha omama be-social development balapha omama uLusithi umuntu lapha ulindele ukuba kugxilwe kakhulu ke kwintswelangqesho ke kujongwe ke emanzini kakhulu kujonge ke ku-corruption zonke ezo zinto ke zilindelwe kwaye ke abantu bazizele ubuqu kulo nyaka ukuba ithi kanti zonke zonto ziyenzeka ithi loo nto ke ezi zinto ngaske nyhani zenzeke lelethu zingathi kanti zizinto ezingazokwenzeka lo nyaka ke banqwenela ukuba izinto zitshintshe kwaye liphondo litshintshe ngamandla kodwa ke Mr Makota kwezo zinto zonke ngakumbi ke unemployment kungaske inene yona ngoba ulutsha lwalapha eMpuma Kapa luswela ingqesho kwaye ke ezo nto ke zezi zityhalela abantu ukuthi baye kwi-corruption kubekho i-crime ezo nto ke zinjalo ke zizawubangela abantu baphume emgceni kodwa ke namhlanje bayanqwena ukuba kulungiswe eli phondo ke kodwa ke Mr Makota mandithi ke i-unemployment uyijonge njani wena kweli phondo?
Inkosi kakhulu ke uNgqongqo Ntomboxolo Mabuyane lo wajokamani pha ngaphandle kanti ke sisajongile singqangile siyabona ba namapolisa azawubetha indishini pha enze zanto zakhona ke zokunqisha uwaphethe intambula ke iqhamze uzawuvuzela wena uzawuzivela sebemile sebengqangile ke belungele kanye kuze ethubeni uzawuva wena xa sekusitsho sasandi somhobe wesizwe nenkulumbuso ingathi seyifikile kanti yarhoqa ingathi seyifikile ntona ndivelanga kakuhle pha sobona ke xa ethatha ke ekhahlela esizweni ebukela sisaqhubela phambili ke sisebhisho yilona ndawo sikuyo ke leyo njanje ke sinqangele sifuna ukuniphathela ngoba njalo bayo intetho eza kwenziwa ngo-Oscar Mabuyane inkulumbuso yephongo Mpuma Kapa ndiyambona ke nako nkulumbuso selithatha indawo ke ngoku yoma
Radofara, soldiers! Radofara, orders! Hey, stand east.
Thank you, Premier. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the Acting Commissioner of Eastern Cape, Major General Zitulele Moses Daka, will now invite the Premier of the Eastern Cape, the Honorable Babalo Oscar Mabuyane, to express for the General Police.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
Yes, sir.
attention!
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sibukele ke pha inkulu baphathiswa yephondo Oscar Mabuyane nqawuza pha eculture zindembelele zasemkhosini kunjanje ke wenza lanto kuthiwa luhlolo lomkhosi yamba ke ngojonga sakhe simbone kuba kazuhamba emane ilungisa lamaqhina lamaqhina ukwenza loo nto ke ophopho into eziyaziyo kuba umkhosi luhlolo kanjani bajongile ngababona uba banxibe kakuhle nezihlangu zabo ziyambengezela nakho ke nqawuza ke ihamba kakuhle pha phambi kwakhe kukho ke lamaqhalamsha 80 camps balapha babini ngaphambili kubekho lo lapha ecaleni kwakhe ke kuthiwa ngolisekela lemcommissioner kweli phondo kanti ke besinyeke into batyhini inkosi yam usisi nomthetheleli mene oyena ophethe amapolisa kweli phondo uzabe pha yabona ke ndibikhona kwabambeke khona bangaphi 1 2 3 4 5 phambili kukhokhele lamaqhongosha akhe aphatha intonga zalapha emkhosini wamapolisa kulandele uOscar Mabuyane eqhaqwe ngusekela mcommissioner ze ngasemva kubekho impelisi engathi abathundeza pha bafaka umoya abanqawuze uyeva ke nabo ke benqawuza itsho kamandi ke pha ngasemva lanto imalintyilo zi.
And as you know, that these visuals that you're seeing right now are absolutely symbolic of what we expect from the State of the Province address, of what we've come to know of the State of the Province address, which was, of course, was not the case in the previous year. This is, of course, the police parade, which is formed up under the command of Warrant Officer Sean Davids. And as my colleague has already said, that is the premier of the Eastern Cape, Lubabalo Oscar Mabuyane, participating there in what needs to be done before he addresses us this evening as we wait to hear what the plans are for the Eastern Cape. We are getting into a conversation around some of the expectations, as you heard from our colleagues as well on the ground who are speaking to people there. Now, Ongama, when we speak about the pomp and ceremony of the State of the Province address, last year it wasn't like this, and people might be saying that, there's no need for all of this. This is some of the things that the Eastern Cape can cut cost on. What are your thoughts on that?
So this is interesting. One of the things that are done in order to cement a sense of nationhood are what we call rituals of democracy. These kinds of activity. I mean, I'm looking at it. It feels nice. It's good to see, the seat of power in the province and such a procession. Generally, people critique it for lack of real tangible benefits in itself, but these are the kinds of ceremonies and rituals that add on the emotive aspect of the sense of nationhood or citizenship in a country.
Certainly, and we can see a salute taking place now. If you look at what's happening outside, that is the police parade here at the State of the Province address. The Premier Lubabalo Oscar Mabuyane having arrived, and we're expecting him to get in and be able to give us a breakdown. Dr. Nonzo, what are your thoughts around the extravagance, which is what other people would say, around events such as this one?
Thank you. I think this is important because as the power of the woman said, it's a ritual. Omnia would have a problem. But I need to show it's not about spending, but of course it has to be controlled. You heard the cries in Cape Town. It was initial 1.9 million. We ballooned to 4 million.
And now that is the national anthem at the parade.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now give a guard of honor an opportunity to march off the parade ground. Immediately after that, the parade will pay the last compliments in the form of a march past. The Premier is kindly requested to take a step forward to acknowledge the salute. The Premier will return to his position after the last platoon has passed the podium. Over to you, Parade Commander.
Height! Attention! Guard of honor! Shoulder arms! Height! Close! Order! March! Guard of honor! Move to the right! Right hand! Guard of honor! Quick march! Hey! March first five battles! The color of the face. Move to the right! Right hand!
Ya njengoko senizibonela nani ke uba kwaba bumbejembeje nokwakunqisha kwamapolisa omkhosi wamapolisa eMpuma Kapa sibabukele ke bagqibile nabo bebheka pha bepetshela bekhwencele imisilo nkabi bebheka pha unjanje ke benqisha benqawuza siyayibukela ke lo kumbukele ngumfanekiso omhle kakhulu ke lo owenza kube kusekululume emazantsi ngamanye amaxesha uzubone usinemnciliketi itsho yona yawotsho laa nto ithi tsitsitsi phaa ngasemva uqonda uba ayikhona lilizwe lethu lesifamba sibe ndiyakuxelela bawuthethile ke bawenzile umhobe wesizwe nenkulumbuso yayihombela loo nto yathozama yathokombisa phaa ijongele kuba loko lixesha elibalulekileyo kakhulu eli apho ufumanisa into yoba ngamanyathelo angqongqo afana nqwa nokuthatha isifungo ngokutsha xa uzawuhomba ukhahlele uthoba umnqonqo kodwa ke gqirha Nonso ndiyafuna ukukusondeza apha kuzo zonke izinto sinomnqweno uba mazenzeke kuzokukholwa into yoba ayikho imali izovela phi imali kunjanje wena utshilo wathi lipaneke kwindawo ethile eliphondo belifama lindande emafini lisemagqabini izovela phi imali yayo yonke izinto sinqwene uba mazenzeke.
Msasazi, I think what is important is that we must work with what we have. I-budget yase-Eastern Cape dropped by 5.8% last year from 87 to 85. So yes, budget. We must work with what we have. We must prioritize. You sit down and see. You will recall that budget health is no more. The 90 doctors that were toying are part of their chronogram, but there is no budget to finance them. Imali emagqwetheni medical claims. So iphelile imali kuye kokucelwa kwa-treasury uba njengoba kuphela i-financial year imali ayikho kodwa what do we do? There's a lot of budget for education. Number two, health. What are we going to do? It goes back to what the president has said of a social compact. We have heard of network. The simple meaning of a social compact, network, where people converge under one roof. kuthiwe sithini and have a provincial consensus. But these are the priority to create jobs. We must do away with this. We must do this because here there's a problem of unemployment, a high. The economy of Eastern Cape is dying. Amasimi alele. Silindele lukhulu ke ku premier. That the premier will outline his way. Remember, there's a threat here. He is presenting to us under the threat. There are 3 leaders competing for chairmanship of premiership. People have died in PE day before yesterday.
Kayibamba kulonda wokukanonsa sisenalo ixeshana noko. Kodwa ke dasibukele uyayibona la nto inhle nje ya.
Inhle kakhulu and bekungekho njena kulo nyaka uphelileyo, so iyabonakala nokuba intle and njengoba ongame betshilo uba ibalekile nangona abanye abantu bengazu understand why it is that we hold the parade here. But you can see that the parade is almost coming to an end, and we're expecting that they're going to, the premier will be going into the chambers soon to be able to deliver the address. You're seeing police there, police cars are coming through. The parade in itself is still happening. We're expecting at some point the premier to be handed over to the speaker of the legislature, and from then on we expect a photo shoot to take place, which is what usually happens around this time, Mr. Makota.
Yeah. Asayijongele wethu siyubukela ubambethe man amapolisa ebona ubunganga babo bona ubunganga babo man nabo ke bayadlula Nkosi yami nomzana ongama Mtimka ndifuna ke ukubuze ke wena into ba ingaba mhlambe isithonga nokugamza kwayo inkulumbuso ithetha lemizuzwana imali zayo inoba mhlambe izawuphembeleka kanganani lifuthe eliya kunyulo lobunkokheli kweliphondo ngekudala.
Njengoko sisazi bale officer kuyo ioffice yezopolitiko baye babe nezinto bazibiza bazi Apex projects okanye Apex initiatives. Ezi zinto ubani afuna ukukhunjulwa ngazo ndiyacinga intoba uza kwenza ngakumbi kulonyaka ukuzama into yokokuba abonwe njengomntu osakufanele intoba angakhokhela. So ndikulindele ukuva ke intoba zintoni ezizayo, kodwa ke eyona nto funeka egxininisile kuyo into yokokuba wenzeni na urhulumente wakhe kweli xesha elidlulileyo kulonyaka uphelileyo. Ibalulekile loo nto ngoba kaloku iinkokheli zisezibe nale nto ngamanye amaxesha zithethe ngokungathi zivela uhla ngoku zisuka kwenye iplanethi. So sifuna uva kwezi zithembiso zizawuza sizilindeleyo yaye zamkelekileyo ngoba iprovince nganye funeka ibe nawo umbono ezi zinto besithetha ngazo ngaphambili. Bendithi ngoku uDr Nonso bezithetha bezindivisa kamandi mna. Imagine xa abemi beliphondo beyazi uba kukhona into ezithile that siliphondo sileqa zona. So ibalulekile laa nto yoba kubekho izithembiso engathi kuzawukwakhiwa kwendlela esuka apho uyotsho enyangeni, but ithethwe loo nto sibona okokuba ezi zinto simane sizibhambathisa sindawuni kuzo ngoku.
Dr Nonso uthethe kabuhlungu unkulumbuso uMabuyane kunyaka opheleyo ethunuka izazela ngodaba lokufa kwabantwana ebakhwetheni. Ude athi sokugqithwa nangomama aba bona bakhulelwa enyanga ezibhozo abakhulise abantwana bawufika kwi-18 leminyaka, thina soyiswa ziveke ezine nezintandathu qha bababuye bephila. Endamalihle inani liyenyuka kwakhona. Ndoda omXhosa yitsho uzawuthini ngoku Nkosi yami?
Kanti umsasazi upremier hence bendisithi makakaqine. Kufuneka i-political will wisdom. Kwezinye iprovinces ayikho le ngxaki sinayo apha kule province. Remember isiko li-infiltratiwe, kungena abantu ovuka engceni bangene and bayangena bangabanjwa. Abazali ii-communities zethu zine-single parents. Abantwana stealing themselves out. Inkosi do not have authority. Zithi azikwazi uyicontrola le nto. Ebeke wathi komnye umntu make lume ololuko kude kube khona isolution. Kwezinye countries you rule pheli lapha Eastern Cape, you declare this a disaster. into yokufakwa abantwana every year 10, 15 young souls. It's a very important thing. Ekufanele uba umuntu uyaxhuma ongupremier ayibone uba eli siko kule Eastern Cape alisebenzi kakuhle. Remember kule province ezinye indawo zepro zinangxaki. Egqibeka akho problem. Ko BCM, ko Queenstown, ko Matatiele, le problem ingapha ngazimampondweni. If you check the statistics, now Premier must come and give us direction. Last year, he must account of what he did with the promises that he gave to the people of Eastern Cape in last year's State of the Province address. And what is he going to do now? Intoni isizathu soba what he was going to achieve, he didn't. For instance, simple things. If you can create tar roads to the seas, all roads to the seas must be tarred. Once you tar roads, you're creating tourism. You go to areas like Mtata Mouth, areas like Presley Bay. There's nothing. Gravel road for 2 hours. That inhibits growth, economy. All roads to the hospitals must have it. The president would tell paving. He must pave. If there's a road to Mandela, Mveso, it's paved by the big company. It's tarred, it's paved. He must pave some roads to the big hospitals, some roads to the partner with Sandra. The problem yokuthiwa local roads, provincial roads, national roads is killing this country. All roads must be under Sandra, including local roads.
Ngozi, Dr. Nonso, we're certainly going to be delving deeper into a lot of these issues. My goodness, I don't know if we're going to get around to all of them because there are so much that we need to unpack. But what we are most excited about is to hear exactly what the Premier said. And I think you can see that things are getting ready there at the gallery that is in the chambers, the Premier, the Raymond Mhlaba chamber. They are taking the group picture, as I promised earlier on, which is usually what's expected around this time at the State of the Province address. Once these pictures are done, we are expecting that the Premier will then walk in with the Honourable Speaker, and of course that they will be led by the Sergeant of Arms when they are going into the chambers. We're expecting that although that things are happening face to face as opposed to the previous year, there are still the protocols of COVID that are being observed during this time. And on that note of COVID, Dr. Nonso, you know, you've been highlighting quite a number of things, but COVID-19, we cannot ignore the impact that it has had on the country as a whole, but specifically on the province of the Eastern Cape in the past 2 years especially. Do you think enough has been done, and do you think enough emphasis has been placed on sort of curbing the issues that have been highlighted by this pandemic?
I think this province is not different from other provinces. You will know that the tourism sector has lost more than 40% of their businesses are closed as we speak now. Unemployment increased, especially in that sector. You will recall that construction sector is affected. Of course, people did receive these incentives from government, tourism incentives, all those grants that were given to people, but that is not enough. You need a plan to resuscitate the business. For example, what saying, if you talk about tourism, reduce some of these expensive things, expensive rates, billing them like big companies, rates, water, electricity, the cost of doing business. If you agree that they must create jobs, SMMEs were the hardest hit. Remember, big shops, multinational, they traded. You can see the profits that have been pronounced in various of these big multinationals that are operating in our communities. But the black small business has gone down during this period. It is the duty of the Premier to give hope to the SMMEs, to give hope to the entire business community on what steps will government do in order to leverage on the strength of the province, because people are willing they have voted the ANC in numbers in November 1st. They have not given up on this province. They love the Premier, they love the leadership of the Premier, but now the Premier must show people of the Eastern Cape that there's hope, things are going to change, and this is how he hopes to change things as the personnel, the hem of the politics, of leadership of this province and government.
Reviving business, especially SMMEs. Recently, at the AU summit, there was a conclusion that trade can begin, as part of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. What sort of things do you think that the Eastern Cape government can do to empower its businesses to tap in to the opportunities that are available there? I think I'm going to pose it to you, Dr. Nonso, but I'll give you a chance as well, Ongama.
You see, the Eastern Cape is rich. We have got hemp. We have got this cannabis. What do you call it?
Cannabis.
Cannabis. It is busy. It's all over. There's a harbor in Port St. John's. This belt of sea, the sea oceans economy, that is spoken about every time, but practically we don't see anything. These are the things that we can use to partner with these countries throughout, so that we produce. We have got tea at Magwa, which is 100% state-owned. We were saying that, why don't you get the state, you get the community trust, and you get SMMEs to partner with foreign investors, so that because once a business is run by government, it stops becoming a business, it becomes an NPO. We're using tea from all over, yet we have got our own tea here. So these are small things that could be changed. You link Africa, if there's trade and industry, what products can Eastern Cape, 10 top products that they can use to export to other areas? But now we need a strategic premier, a premier who thinks out of the box. What is the SADC, the UA Africa, and internationally? What does that mean to him as a province? Are we confined here? How do we trade with the Mpumalanga province in the Eastern Cape and Northwest and exchange notes? I know they meet in premiers forums in Johannesburg, but what is it that we can do together to ensure that this province, people of this province, see change? Because people want change now.
Ngiyafuna ukuqhusheka lo mbuzo. Ingaba inxaxheba okanye ifuthe losomashishini lingakanani kwindlela okuqhutywa ngayo? Niyavumeleka etshatshalazini nize nengcebiso njengoba usitsho.
Siyacebisa Umsasazi kakhulu, kangangoba beke sathetha into nawe upremier sawudibana kwinto ekuthiwa i-provincial economic desk ye-insendo siqhela uzithetha siwabini, zafiltarishwa phaa kubo bonke no-CEO bezindawo zonke esizithetha, zonke okurha babepha. But umbuzo uthi, ezi zinto sizithethayo, how do they find expression kwi-programs zikarhulumente? We continue knocking, we'll sleep at the door until the door is opened. But what we're saying, if the government acknowledges that SMMEs create jobs, what is it that they can do to understand this? Because we know, they know their problems, they articulate them. As we speak, we have got cows, we have got cattle, we have got sheep, but we buy meat from Stellenbosch. In our shops, at Tabankulu, at wherever we are, ours, we eat them when there's a ritual. How can you change things? We have got abattoirs that are there, that are owned by government. People are, there's maize of the Eastern Cape in rural areas is now counted as a product with Maize Association of South Africa.
Hold that thought right there, Dr. Nonso. We're going to get back to these conversation, but it looks like things are ready to get into motion here at the provincial legislature. Of course, you know that this is the special broadcast of the State of the Province address, and we're going to be here waiting to hear what the Premier has to say. We've touched on a number of issues. The issue of unemployment has come up, infrastructure, jobs, so much has come up. And just before I asked Dr. Nonso to just hold that thought, I really wanted to go back to that point, Ongama, about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and how the Eastern Cape can empower its businesses here. Do you think that there's enough mechanisms that are in place already for the Eastern Cape to be able to uproot some of its businesses so that they can tap in to that really big and important market on the continent?
Yeah, the opportunity is there. South Africa is a big exporter and a big investor in the rest of the continent. However, how does a province that imports a lot of products, simple products that can be produced in rural areas, begin to respond to international opportunities in the region. My view is that we must stop fixation with formality. So, for example, there are scrap metal dealers who realize the value of a participatory economy from small villages into a global exporting a value chain. So why, if scrap metal dealers can do it, if people who mine aloe, who extract aloe, can do it, and BKB can do it as when it comes to mohair. And we don't repeat the same thing that we have seen is working. My father, remote area in Pedi, Kwalbalele, Ngqushwa, would say one time, Engama, I got a little bit, about 5 grand this season in the shearing season. Now that's participation in the value chain. Why? The reason why they can get that, I mean, it's just boy, you know. So the reason they can get that is because a company that plays in the global value chain recognizes what's being done in remote areas and connects those communities in the economy. So we need more of those things. We need more smallholders and informal platforms where you don't say to somebody you're going to go register with SARS or CIPC in order to participate. I mean, they participate without SARS. I mean, why not come at the level of how people operate? Now, you the same way that we can export huge amounts of scrap, not from big players, but from independent operators throughout the province. We can repeat that with agricultural products as well as a whole lot of others. We get too fixated with Western concepts of big business and all of those things. And as such, we exclude too many people, which is why we have a ticking time bomb of people not being involved in economies.
Fantastic. Well, that is Ongama Mtimka getting into conversation with us, and we're now going back to the chambers, the Raymond Mhlaba chambers, where the State of the Province address is set to take place. As you can see that it is in person, and as I mentioned earlier, that the COVID protocols are being observed. You can see that there is social distancing that is taking place there. And as I mentioned, that the Premier, Lubabalo Oscar Mabuyane, will walk in there with the Sergeant of Arms. Sergeant of Arms. He's there holding the mast there, and those are visuals that we are used to when it comes to the State of the Province address, unlike the previous year. Mr. Makot.
Yeah.
Honorable members,
we'll
we'll now have an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. Honorable members, as the Speaker of the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature, I welcome you to the official opening of the legislature, as well as the tabling of the State of the Province address by the Honorable Premier. We welcome all members of the Executive Committee, all honorable members of this august House, different political parties that is here with us, the chairpersons of committees, the whips of the committees, all honorable members, and the guest of the Honorable Premier that is in our midst this evening, as well as the media that is with us. You are most welcome to this occasion. This is an occasion that only happens, and it is quite an important occasion where we will listen attentively to the Honorable Premier. But honorable members, before we commence with the business of the day, may I take this opportunity to lay down some ground rules in facilitating our sitting. Members are once again reminded, honorable members, that this is a formal sitting of the legislature, and therefore all the standing rules of the legislature applies. Members and guests must keep cell phone and other devices on silent at all times. The proceedings are being streamed live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter of both the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature and the Office of the Premier, as well as 22 Eastern Cape community radio stations and Mabuyane FM to accommodate those who cannot be accommodated in the precinct due to the COVID-19 regulations. Furthermore, these proceedings are broadcast live on Mpuma Kapa TV and ENCA. Honorable members, this is a sitting of the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature in terms of Rule 17 of its standing rules of procedure to allow the Honorable Premier to deliver the State of the Province address. In terms of Rule 17, subsection 5 of the standing rules, no point of order, questions of privilege, or a question to the Premier shall be allowed once the Premier takes the podium to commence delivering the State of the Province address. Honorable members, in compliance with COVID-19 regulations issued in terms of the Disaster Management Act 2002, we have placed honorable members also in the public gallery. As such, we have required of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act 2004, Act number 4, to declare that part as a chamber. Therefore, no other persons may sit in the areas designated for honorable members, with the exception of members of the media who have been designated places far from the honorable members. Those members of the media are kindly advised that they are in the House under the direction of the Honorable Speaker in terms of Section 118, subsection 1B1 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, 1996, and that they are therefore requested to respect the decorum of the House, both in the bottom part and the top part of the chamber. Honorable members, unfortunately, I do take note of the fact that some of our members are not appropriately dressed in accordance of Rule 79, subsection 1 of the standing rules and the adopted dress code policy for members and staff serving in the House of Committees. I will therefore refer this matter to the ethics in terms of Rule 107 to deal with this matter. Honorable members, I will now hand over to the Secretary to read for us the order of the day. Over to you, Secretary.
Address by the Premier of the province.
Honorable Premier, it is my privilege to ask you to come forward and to address this august House. I am also noting that we are about 5 minutes ahead of schedule, but, but that's better earlier than later. I hope the media will catch up with us in all of this. Over to you, Honorable Premier.
So,
quickly distribute the address of the Premier. It has been embargoed and you will only be receiving it now so that all the honorable members will have it. It will also give you an opportunity, Premier, just to fix everything, put the smile on.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and greetings to Honorable Deputy Speaker as well, the Judge President of the Eastern Cape, and the members of the Executive Council, and members of the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature, the ministers and the deputy ministers, members of the Parliament and delegates to the NCOP, mayors and all councillors, leaders of political parties, ikumkane zezwe lakowethu, usihlalo wendlu yenkosi nenkosi zonke eziphakathi kwethu, leaders of chapter 9 and chapter 10 institution, usihlalo we-moral regeneration unkosi ungangomhlaba Mathanzima, vice chancellors of our higher education institutions, members of the diplomatic and consular corps, leaders of the religious fraternity, business, labor, and civil society, Director General and heads of departments, municipal managers, the CEOs of our enterprises, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Ndibulise nakwabo basiphulaphule konomathotholo emakhaya, umhlobo wenene, nakuzo zonke izikhululo, nakumabonakude. Silapha ngolurhatya somlomo lwanamhlanje kule ndlu yoqingqo wisomthetho yephondo. Sizokunika ingxelo ngobume bephondo kunyaka esisuka kuwo ka-2021. Siyayazi okokuba zibe khona izinto ezisincumisayo, kodwa kananjalo zikwakhona neziphazamise intlalo yoluntu. There's nothing more painful, Honorable Speaker, to us in the government than losing the lives of our citizens. We lost lives due to COVID-19, road accident, natural disasters, and to the customary male initiation, among others. Bonke ke aba bantu bashiye ngasemva izingqala kwiintsapho zabo, ngoko ke kuwo onke amakhaya athe azibona ephantsi kwelifu elimnyama kulo nyaka ka-2021 sithi kubo akuhlanga lungehlanga thuthuzelekanga. Honorable members, 2021 was not at all dark and gloomy. The matric class of 2021 made us proud by achieving a 73% pass rate, an improvement of 4.9% from the 68.1% we achieved in 2020. Indeed, we applaud the leadership of the department, the educators, parents, learners, and other stakeholders who contributed to the improvement of our education outcomes. We maintain that our province can and we will work towards achieving an 80% pass rate during this sixth term of our government. Kwicandelo lezimidlalo somlomo namalunga abekekileyo onke, inzalelwane zeliphondo ezimbini, uSiya Kolisi kwakunye noLusanda Dumke, bachongwe njengabadlali ababalaseleyo kunyaka ka-2021 kumdlalo wombhoxo. Sithi huntshu kuni bantwana bomgquba, nisimele kakuhle emazweni, ukandwa kwaliwa ngumthakathi. Chaza imbethi manqindi yeliphondo esaze ngobuso elizweni, uAzinga Fuzile okhoyo phakathi kwethu namhlanje njengendwendwe lenkulumbuzo, okokuba angatyhafi ziziphumo zomlo wakhe wokugqibela. Umzingisi akanashwa. Mandithathe kwanelithuba ndidlulise amazwi ovelwano okhethekileyo kwifemeli kaZolan the Untouchable Mahali osishileyo kule nyanga. Indeed, he was a world champ who won the IBO World Super Bantamweight title. He beat the best to remain the best. Fellow citizens, our democracy is still fledgling and fragile. There are some in our country who will test the resilience of our democracy from time to time. Thank you very much to people of Eastern Cape for defending our democratic gains by refusing to participate in the July 2021 unrest. Your patriotic act of courage saved the critical economic infrastructure and jobs in our province. Let us all continue to be vigilant against people who seek to reverse our democratic gains. This year, Honorable Speaker, our province is commemorating a centenary since the passing of Reverend John Knox Bokwe. He was a renowned, prolific writer who contributed immensely to Xhosa religious music. We will work with his family and the John Knox Bokwe Foundation to remember him through various programs. His life story is an inspiration to us and an important part of our heritage. Madam Speaker, our agenda for the 6th term remains informed by the Eastern Cape Provincial Development Plan, our Vision 2030. As committed in the Eastern Cape Provincial Development Plan, we must address the unemployment, which sits at 47.4%, affecting men, women, youth of our province. We must end the sea of poverty that we see in our own eyes, with 12.7% of households living in poverty. We must also end the inequality that persists in our democratic order, which affects mainly Black people in all the facets of socio-economic life. In response to this reality, we are implementing our priorities through the provincial medium-term strategic framework to contribute towards the addressing the unemployment, poverty, and inequality. In our plan, we said to address these 3 challenges, we must build a capable, ethical, and developmental state, transform the economy and create jobs, invest in education, skills, and health, consolidate social wage through reliable, quality basic services, integrate spatial planning, rural economy, and local government, build social cohesion and safe communities, and lastly, build a better Africa and the world. We believe that through these 7 priorities, we are building the Eastern Cape we want by creating jobs for the jobless, reducing unemployment, enhancing food security, alleviating hunger, and building equal opportunities for all our citizens. While we were planning programs to achieve these priorities, the COVID-19 pandemic hit our shores. It exposed the weaknesses in our government and the inequalities in our communities. We had to adjust our sails to navigate the worst health crisis in the 21st century. The pandemic not only claimed lives, but also impacted negatively in the economy. We then developed a provincial economic reconstruction and recovery plan to resuscitate our economy. Honorable members, the people of our province expect government and social partners to solve the unemployment challenge. In response to these expectations, we have started to collectively address the economy that is not growing at an acceptable rate. In this regard, we are building and enabling infrastructure as a catalyst to grow the economy and create jobs. I now report on the progress made in the implementation of the infrastructure projects across the province. Road infrastructure is the wheels of the economy, and it also plays the important role of connecting our people to social services and economic centers. A few years ago, the province decided to partner with Sanral in the construction and maintenance of our strategic roads. In the past year, 8 major road infrastructure projects worth 3.1 billion have been completed. These are R72 Port Alfred to Fish River, R72 Bhisho River to Open Shore, N2 Makanda to Fish River Phase 2, N2 Tetyana to Stebe Komkhulu, R67 Whitley Sea to Black Kai River, R61 Majolati to Tombo, R61 Libode to Mngazi Mouth, R75 Yansville to R63 intersection. Your government is currently implementing 18 other major road infrastructure projects worth 7 billion in our province. These roads include N2 Msikaba Bridge in Owar Tambo District, N2 Ngadu to Mbogotwana, and Dan's Lodge to Tsolo Junction in Owar Tambo District, R63 Fort Beaufort to Alice in Amatole District, N2 Green River Bulembu to Buffalo River Ekonge, Black Kai River to Komani in Christiani District, R58 Lady Gray to Buckley East in Jogabi, R61 Bazia to Mtata Airport in the OR Tambo district, and N2 Braybacht and Bailstone interchange in the Buffalo City. Xa ungena usuka ngase Ngqushwa, xa uphuma usiya ngase eBraybacht kuyasetyenzwa. These are interchanges esithetha ngazo in case la magama ningawaqondi. Small towns such as Middelburg, Steynsburg, Molteno, Dordrecht, Indwe, Maclear are benefiting from the rehabilitation works that are currently undertaken on the R56. Over 1.5 billion has been invested in the rehabilitation of this route. Despite the negative effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, over 4,500 job opportunities have been created in the construction of roads projects. Of these, 2,020 benefited youth and 1,076 women. A total of 228 million was spent on wages and salaries. We are transforming the construction industry by affirming new black players in the sector. Construction work packages worth more than 55.5 billion were allocated to 696 black-owned contractors, with 120 million spent on those within CIDP grades 1 to 4. Sesiqalisile ukulungiselela ukwakha ezinye indlela ezilishumi elinethoba eziquka leyo ezakunciphisa ingxinano yezithuthi kwidolophu yaseGcuwa nakwidolophu yase-Edutywa. Sinethemba ukuba olu phuculo lwezendlela luza kuba negalelo elibonakalayo kukhuseleko lezendlela ezindleleni zethu nasekunciphiseni ixesha elichithwa ngabaqhubi ezindleleni. The 1.6 billion Mthendu Bridge project in Mbizana was delayed after construction left the site, citing violent protest. We also acknowledge that in some instances, there were weaknesses in the public participation and social facilitation process. Yenye weakness enkulu esijongene nayo esiyibonileyo ebangela uba our critical and our catalytic projects zibe kanti azikwazi ukuimplementwa ngexesha elifanelekileyo. See, Office of the Premier, we're looking at that, ukuyiqinisa alone. We are looking into strategies to improve in this area because the voice of the people is critical in their development. Awukwazi ukusa uphuhliso ebantwini abantu bangabikho inxalenye yelo phuhliso. So kuyanyanzeleka xa sise uphuhliso sisebenze nabo. However, I'm pleased to note that the announcement of a new contractor for this project is imminent. Kuchilo usandral bakungekudala inkampani ezawuqhubeka nala bhorho yaseMthendu ibimisiwe ngenxa yezingxaki. La nkampani kungekudala entsha izawukwaziswa. In the construction of the Msikaba Bridge that is currently underway in OR Tambo district, 522 local people are employed on site, all coming from the 4 surrounding administrative areas of Lambasi, Gezwa, Nkunzimbini, Njombela on the south, and KwaTahle and Kanyayo on the north. Siyaqhubeka nokuphucula indlela zeluphondo. Akusekudala siwugqibe umsebenzi wokwakha ezindlela zilandelayo ukusuka kwisibhedlele iNhlaza ukuya eHluleka, uN2 ukuya esibhedlele iSiphethu, ukusuka kuGatyana ukuya eDwesa, nokusuka eSterkspruit ukuya esibhedlele eMlamli. Zindlela esizakhayo ngoku sithethayo ezi. Resilient rehabilitation projects are being implemented on various sections of our provincial roads, including Maluti to Matatiele, Makanda to Port Alfred, Butterworth to Tsendane, and Magusheni to Flagstaff. Meanwhile, preparations are underway for the implementation of phase 3 of R61 Magusheni to Mzama, Auckland to Clarkbury phase 1, and Plaza to Hluleka phase 2. We have regraveled the 3,544 kilometers and bladed more than 62,000 kilometers. Road maintenance was, however, adversely affected by the various factors like COVID-19 and community protests, resulting in the constrained progress. The regraveling and the blading are just not enough because during rainy season, the gravel roads are washed away. It is now time to ramp up paving because it is both durable and labor intensive. We welcome the announcement by the President that the national government will work with us to use labor-intensive methods to construct or upgrade rural roads. This will augment similar initiatives that the province has started. For example, Maqhubeni Road, Qumbu to Tsilitwa, and Hilltown to Ngumbela Oval. Ezo ndlela siyazenza nge-paving. We have another challenge in our province, that of low-lying bridges, which are easily damaged and overflooded by water in the rainy season. We will take advantage of the upscaled Welisizwe Rural Bridges program as announced by the president. Surely we'll benefit as a province. Siyeke ubasibe nabantwana abawela imilambo xa beya esikolweni nabantu abawela imilambo xa besiya ezidolophini kuba kungekho ndlela ziphucukileyo nee-bridges zokukwazi ukuwela. Honorable members, the Wild Coast Industrial Park is no longer a dream. It is a reality. Fencing at the Wild Coast Industrial Park is at 95% complete. This project has benefited 8 SMME and created jobs for local people. The next phase of this implementation of the bulk infrastructure, which includes sanitation, water, and electricity, the Department of Trade, Industry, and Competition has invested 49 million for installation of the bulk infrastructure, and the project will be completed in November 2022. We have already signed an investment pipeline of 1.4 billion with 4 investors committing to locate in the Wild Coast Industrial Park. These entail investment in the following sectors: vegetable cultivation and processing, beverages, manufacturing and cold storage, poultry processing, and starch manufacturing. Honorable members, the private sector contribution on our economy has mitigated the negative effect of COVID-19. The private sector has truly embraced our call to work together to build the Eastern Cape we want. In the Buffalo City Metro, 16 new investors have injected a combined 3.3 billion to our economy and are linked to the Mercedes-Benz South Africa's new C-Class project, W206. These investors have pledged to create 2,078 new jobs in the next 2 years. We have no doubt, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, that they will fulfill the commitment because they've already created 751 new jobs within the East London IDZ. As a platform that is anchored on the auto sector, the East London IDZ is looking at deepening the local content by localizing the second and third tier car component that are not currently in South Africa. That is a bold futuristic outlook that we need for our manufacturing sector. As a shareholder, we will support the East London IDZ to realize this strategic objective. We have received 2 new investments from the OEMs. Isuzu invested 1.2 billion, effectively rescuing half of the jobs that would have been lost when General Motors de-invested in South Africa. Ford Motor Company, on the other hand, has committed to invest 600 million in their plant in Gqeberha for modernizing and growing their local operations. The presence of these OEMs has contributed to the growth of Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 automotive supply network, which stands at 118, providing over 55,000 jobs in the province. The Kucha SEZ has recently been chosen by Hive Hydrogen South Africa as the location of a green hydrogen project, which will be fully operational by 2026. The project entails the construction of about 69.6 billion green ammonium plant with its own dedicated green power supply. This is a game changer project for our province and the country, as it will boost the Kucha SEZ value proposition platform for sustainable investments. The Kucha SEZ is seized with 2 more projects that will contribute a combined 324 new operational jobs to the economy. One of these investors is Seraphine Solar Cell Manufacturing Company that is investing 362 million into our province to increase the local content on its solar value chain. The second investor is an African port logistics and infrastructure that is investing 300 million in the agro-processing value chain. And these are investments that will benefit the people of our province. Madam Speaker, I can confirm that Transnet has budgeted 5.6 billion in the medium term to sustain and expand investment. The East London Port has been allocated 1 billion to establish boat building and ship repair facilities, as well as maritime training college as part of Operation Pakisa projects. Following the commitment to migrate fuel tanks and the manganese export from the port of Gqeberha to the port of Ngqura, Transnet has appointed Ngqura as the implementing agent for the 3.4 billion new Ngqura manganese export terminal. The Kukas Plainy branch line is now in operation and connects the Agri Port Terminal at East London, reducing the cost of logistics by moving goods from road to rail. Last year, Aspen invested 3.3 billion in their Gqeberha plant to produce vaccines for Africa. This investment has created 1,775 jobs in our province, of which 52% benefited women. We also welcome an 80 million investment by Siemens in 100-bed modular hospital in Cecilia Makiwana. Honorable members, energy security is critical for our socio-economic transformation. Our country's energy challenges have stifled growth, and disruption in electricity supply affect industries and threaten jobs, as well as lives in critical services such as health. Our province is playing an active role in offering sustainable solutions to the country's energy challenges. We are a suitable environment for the energy mix that our country is pursuing. And we have the capacity to host wind farms, solar farms, gas-fired power plants, and rooftop solar systems. We tick all the boxes, and investors must look in our direction to locate their green energy projects. The construction of 4 wind farms that we were awarded to our province has been completed and are now operational. 2 are in the Blue Crane municipality, 1 in Kocha municipality, and 1 in Ngoshwa municipality. They have added 433 megawatts of capacity to the national grid. In addition of these, 2 more wind farms were recently awarded to our province. 1 is in the district of Krisiani and the other one is in Sarabatman. These wind farms will add an extra 224 megawatts to the national grid with an estimated investment value of 4.6 billion. 1,300 jobs will be created from these investments. Our province has been earmarked for 2 investment projects in liquefied natural gas located in Kucha, SEZ. The 2 projects, Kapa Worship and Mulilo Total Kucha, have a combined capacity of 650 megawatts, which will ensure energy security for investors in the Kucha precinct. This development affirms Kucha as the designated gas hub of South Africa, and SMME in our province should be ready to benefit from these developments. During the State of the Nation's address, the President of our country announced that requests for proposal for 3,000 megawatts of gas power and 500 megawatts of battery storage will be released later this year. Our special economic zone are gearing themselves up for these 2 initiatives. Like energy, water is a precious resource that contributes immensely to the socio-economic development of our nation. We welcome the President's pronouncement that the closing date for the first of the 2-stage procurement of the Mzimvubu Water Project is expected to be actually announced later in the month. while the announcement of the successful bidders is expected in September later this year. Asawuqhwabeleni umzimvubu. Sakonwaba mhla umzimvubu wenzeka. We are constantly following up on this project through our intergovernmental relation platforms. One of the commitments, honorable members, we made at the beginning of this term was to improve office accommodation and bring services closer to people. In this regard, we have invested 439 million to build 3 government office parks in Alfred Nzo, Joe Gabi, as well as in Christian. We named the office parks after the 3 late citizens of our province, Mr. Tobile Bam, Mr. Temba Kojana, and Mr. Batandwa Ndondo, respectively, who were selfless and dedicated to the upliftment of our people. The office parks are now offering multiple government services to our communities and are saving our people time and money. SMMEs and local people were prioritized for business opportunities and jobs in these construction projects. A contractor is currently on site at Emaxesibeni Office Park, while the Mkanduli Office Complex site will soon be handed over. Honorable members, the performance of the agriculture sector is one of those that have sustained our economy during this tough COVID period, with export increasing and import declining. In support of this sector, we invested 417 million in 107 agricultural initiatives in various value chains across the province. These include production in grain, red meat, citrus, fruit, macadamia, poultry, and cannabis. We also invested 160 million to support smallholder farmers with infrastructure for livestock, horticulture, and grain production. Ithi lonto sizawuqhubeka siwabiya ukuthi sizawuqhubeka sibokhela abantu bakuthi idip bakwazi ukudipha imfuyo yabo. Siyayazi abafuna lonto, sizawuqhubeka sibancedisa ngegwane ifertilizer zonke zenhlobo ezifunekayo ukuba balime amasimi abo. Our province is an exporter of agricultural commodities to international market. Today, lemons produced from our province were shipped to China at the Durban port. Yiyo lento umphathiswa wezolimo engekho apha namhlanje. Uye apha eyongqina lonto sizokwazi uthetha esikwaziyo singqine sikubonileyo. Kodwa sithetha no Transnet ba asiyithandi ke lonto ba kumka amathuba emisebenzi ase Eastern Cape. Xa sithatha izinto siyozi exporta pha ngenxa yecapacity esingenayo. Kuba iport yethu yaseGqeberha ikwazi nje ukusinceda ngo-27% wesivuno esisikhuphayo kwezolimo. So ithetha ukuthi umsebenzi omkhulu ekufuneka siwenziwe ukwangeza amandla wale port ise-East London so that le port isincedisana nala port iseGqeberha siqinisekise uba zonke izivuno zalapha siziprocessa apha sizikhuphela apha sidala amathuba emisebenzi kubantu balapha. While we celebrate this milestone, honorable members, we want to produce we want the produce from our farmers, as I've said, to be shipped from our ports, and we are engaging Transnet regarding improvement of the East London port. There is progress in the revitalization of the irrigation schemes. All the 8 irrigation schemes in the province were supported with funding in various aspects, including infrastructure refurbishment, phaya ko Zanyokwe, ko Igange, Lempumalanga, njalo njalo. For cropping, phaya ko Bilatye, Oncocha, no Kamata, and for livestock, phaya eKis Kamawuku, naseShayilo. Sixhase amakhaya angaphezulu kuka 48,000 ngembewu, izithole, izichumiso nezixhobo zokulima. Sikhuthaza inkosi zezwe lakowethu nabantu bakuthi ngokubanzi bavuselele ulimo kwindawo abahlala kuzo ukuqubisana nekati elele eziko. Singurhulumente sifuna bonke abantu bakuthi bathathe inxaxheba njengoko sibona kumaphulo afana nalamaphulo enziwa ngoWiphold kuCendane naphaya eDalasile Agripark, eNkondlo eNgcobo, naphaya kuUkhanyo Farmer Development eMthatha. Cannabis is emerging as a potential sector for growth in the country. The streamlining of the regulatory process towards enabling the cannabis and hemp sector will accelerate our efforts to build the cannabis industry. Going forward, we will strengthen this work with the appointment of an advisory panel, drawing in experts from the sector. Honorable Speaker and honorable members, we are starting to see the results of our intervention in the Magwa Majola Tea Estate. We have sustained 1,558 jobs in the impoverished communities. Bulk sales generated about 18 million for the estate and reinforced our commitment to commercialize and diversify production at the estate to ensure its self-sustenance. Our ocean has abundant marine resources that should help us grow our economy and create jobs. We are implementing the Oceans Economy Master Plan, and already 73 cooperatives of small-scale fisheries have been awarded 15-year-old licenses by the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. The license will ensure participation of rural communities in the oceans economy through the legal trading. In line with our pronouncement in last year's State of the Province address, we have invested 206 million for the construction of phase 1 of the aquaculture development zone, which is underway in Kucha, creating approximately 500 construction and 900 operational jobs. Madam Speaker, SMME played an important role in job creation and in the economy. Through the local economic development framework, we continue to enhance SMME development from the beginning of this term until December 2021. The provincial departments spent a total of 42.3 billion, of which 24 that constitute 58% was spent on suppliers. In the current financial year, provincial departments had cumulatively spent 10.9 billion as at the end of the third quarter. Out of this amount, 6.1 billion, which is 56%, was spent on the Eastern Cape-based suppliers again. The percentage local spending for the current financial year has increased from 47% in first quarter to 64% in third quarter. Honorable members, SMME, especially those that are owned by designated groups, are supported by our government as part of our work to growing and transforming our economy to serve our people. The Department of Small Business Development's Shared Economic Infrastructure Facility is investing 34.7 million to support various projects. These are Kwanto Zonke Product Market in King Sabata Dalindyebo Municipality, the Christiani Cooperatives Development Center in Christiani District. In addition to this, 1.9 million has been allocated to 141 informal and micro businesses in the Amatole and Jogabi district municipalities. Honorable Speaker, in this term, we've created 90 jobs, mainly through our 3 public entities, the East London IDZ, Kucha, and ECDC. There's 90,000 jobs, which have been created by our East London IDZ, Kucha, and ECDC. Designated groups continue to benefit from the expanded public works program, with 349,500 participating in this term. We expect this number to grow as we constantly intervene to address unemployment and poverty. The NTT Group has invested 35 million in Mthatha to open a fully fledged VW and Audi dealership. This will alleviate the struggles that motorists endure in that region to buy and save his cars. The new investment will create jobs for the people of Owari Tambo district. We appreciate investment by entrepreneurs into our economy, such as Mr. Mava Mkukwana okhoyo phakathi kwethu namhlanje njengendwendwe elikhethekileyo lika Premier. Mr. Mkukwana has created 400 direct jobs through his business investment in the retail sector. Phabhele xa ubheke bika ngulo wenzela Shell garage pha. Ngulo usebenzayo ngoku apha ku N2 apha Fort Jackson interchange. Kungekudala we're opening that space into a market kahle sibone iMidrand ezakwenzeka apha between East London and King Williamstown. So yimibono esinayo ngokuncediswa ngabantu abafana naye abakwazi ukucinga bavuke benze lamathuba emisebenzi. Siyababulela abantu abafana naye, sikhuthaza nabanye osomashishini abancinci abasakhulayo balandele elikhondo lihle kangaka labo. By injecting a lifeline of 24.2 million, we have actually rescued 38 companies that were distressed because of the COVID-19. This saved 1,178 jobs across the province. This was in addition to the COVID-19 UIF Temporal Employment Relief Scheme, which paid 3.2 billion to 13,793 employers and 588,000 employees benefited. Madam Speaker, as part of reviving the township and rural economy, we've initiated a program to support community-owned stores. This initiative is designed to ensure that communities, especially women, are shareholders for the common good of the community. This will also ensure that we stimulate economic activities in our communities. To mitigate the effect of COVID-19 on small businesses, 1,279 SMME in rural areas and in towns were supported, thereby saving jobs. Madam Speaker, in response to the perennial challenge of youth unemployment, we are implementing 3 key strategies, namely labor-intensive high-impact government projects, youth entrepreneurship, as well as work-integrated learning. More than 278,000 young people have benefited from various youth development initiatives implemented across the province. We've invested 1.7 billion in youth development through efforts such as skills development, training, bursaries, internships, and learnerships, financial and non-financial support to youth-owned SMMEs. Youth-owned SMMEs such as Kwakuhle Hospitalities in East London, Gandundu Guest House in Lusikisiki, and Cool Tint in Gqeberha have benefited from the government support. We have also intervened to assist needy students in our universities with their debt. As committed last year, in partnership with the Liquid Intelligent Telecoms South Africa, we have established an ICT Academy in Mthatha. This year, the institution has increased its intake to 100 from 73 last year. Madam Speaker, our province attracted million from sector education and training authorities in the fields of manufacturing, engineering, and related services, public sector, mining qualification authority, banking, chemical and local government, wholesale and retail, education, training and development, and the insurance sectors. This investment benefited more than 7,520 young people in our province. In this regard, we want to appreciate the valuable contribution made by these sectors to skills development of our young people in our province. We are making strides in affirming youth-owned businesses. We have increased beneficiation of youth-owned SMMEs from 5% in 2019-2020 financial year to 18.3% by mid-2021-2022. We are determined to continue increasing these thresholds until we reach 30% targets set in the National Youth Policy. We are collaborating with the Department of Employment and Labor to train young people in digital technology and solar energy under an initiative called Youth Digital Exponential Project. Funded by the Unemployment Insurance Fund, the project is implemented through the South African Digital Content Organization, and 500 young people from across the province are already participating in it. The revitalization of our state-owned industrial parks remain one of our top priorities, as we have indicated in the last financial year. Construction work is continuing in all the targeted industrial parks. At least 379 jobs were created and 71 local SMMEs are benefiting from this program. To this effect, we have completed the first phase upgrades at Dimbaza Industrial Park, and we will continue with phase 2 in the new year. In all other parks, construction work is underway. Taking into account the work that has been done, we are making strides to attract investors to these industrial parks. Sifuna usebenza nomasipala because singazigqiba ezi-industrial parks uzilungisa neza factories, but urhulumente akazurana factories. We need to get investors coming in to invest so that firms operate and jobs are created. Government is creating that conducive environment for the private sector to come on board and participate and work with us. Honorable Speaker, we identified tourism as a sector that could jumpstart our economic recovery. International travel bans at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 forced us to focus on domestic tourism. This has proven to be a masterstroke. According to SA Tourism, there were 3.7 million domestic arrivals in our province in 2020, contributing to 7.1 billion direct spend in our provincial economy. We appreciate the tourists for choosing our province as their destination of choice. We are on course to complete infrastructure upgrades at some of our tourist sites, and this includes Interpretation Center at Baviaanskloof, our only World Heritage Site in the Eastern Cape, which was funded by the National Department of Tourism to a tune of 42 million, is complete and to be launched in March this year. This will further position the Eastern Cape as a destination attraction, linking this with the hiking trail funded by the same Department of Tourism for about 9 million. The Eastern Cape Morgan's Bay chalet or dining facility funded to the tune of 45 million by the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment has also been done. This project will be completed in April 2020, improving our coastal offerings. The newly revamped Silaga Nature Reserve in Port St. John's is receiving positive reviews from tourists since it opened in December. This facility has been revamped to a tune of 11 million by the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. The Eastern Cape Parks and Tourism Agency will continue to capitalize on the province's potential and attract a greater market share on the domestic tourists to the province. Some of these strategies being employed include profiling tourist needs and their perception about our province. This valuable tool will sharpen marketing investment across the sector. Our top 15 iconic tourist destinations have been digitized and are available on the virtual platforms where potential tourists could virtually tour them. To spoil the tourist with choice, these virtual tours are being increased to 27 as we speak. We look forward to welcoming visitors during these Easter holidays. Madam Speaker, the development of the African coastal smart cities gaining momentum. Following the President's roadshow in the Eastern Seaboard towards the end of 2021, this initiative is going to serve as a game changer and as a catalyst for further development and investment attraction throughout the Wild Coast. There are already investors who have expressed an interest in this area. To facilitate implementation on the Eastern Cape side of the program, we have appointed Kucha to package our project in that space. Honorable Speaker, we are working to ensure that our province is not left behind in the auctioning of high-frequency communication spectrum. The Eastern Cape will transition from analog to digital broadcasting next month. Amongst other benefits, viewers will enjoy improved picture quality on their television sets. Honorable members, the grade 12 results for the class of 2021 are an outcome of a successful implementation of the education transformation plan in our province. The fact that 17,000 passed in 2021 than in 2020 is a cause for celebration. Similarly, the bachelor passes increased by 4.1% from 30% in 2020 to 34.1% in 2021 is also a good reason to rejoice. We reduced the number of districts performing below 70% drastically from 9 to 3. Each district as a performer ngaphansi kuka 70% sizithobile. Ngoku zisuke ku9 zayotsho ku3 nezi izintathu sawuqinisekisa into kokuba nazo ziyaqabela ku70% kungekudala. We wish all the matriculants well in their future endeavors. Malungu abekekileyo siyandisile inkqubo yokuhanjiswa kokutya ezikolweni ngokuthi songeze isidlo sakusasa ebantwaneni bethu. Esi sidlo sikhanyulwa ngabantwana abayi-173,358 abasuka kwawona makhaya ahlelelekileyo. Xa sisithi singurhulumente onenkathalo asithethi mampunge. We continue to roll out school infrastructure in the rural district of the province to level the education playing field. A 50 million state-of-the-art science center named after Umama Albertina Sisulu has been built and handed over in Tofimvaba. The center will enhance the teaching of maths, science, and technology and further widen career choices of learners. The ASIDI program allocated 298 schools to the province, and to date, 168 schools, that is 56%, have been completed. In the 2021 school year, 23 schools were completed, and these include Mfesane Senior Secondary School in Nelson Mandela Metro, Mbuka Extension in Owari Tambo, Temba Mazizi in Alfred Nzo, Bongweni Primary School in Sarah Batman, nezinye izikolo ezininzi ezingenawo zigqiba xa sizikhankanya apha. These schools comprise 156 classrooms, libraries, laboratories, electricity, water, and sanitation. The Eastern Cape is one of the 2 provinces in which an innovative social infrastructure delivery mechanism will be piloted. In this regard, we have packaged 77 schools which are ready to be built once the 6.6 billion is made available by the National Treasury. The provincial government continues to provide scholar transport to more than 103,000 learners a year. The program is not without its challenges, such as budgetary constraints and the delayed payment of service providers. Sifuna ucela uxolo kweza service providers ngenxa yengxaki ezikhoyo siyayilandela, and we have made it very clear that there must be consequence management. If it's a human error, whoever has done it must take responsibility on that. Similarly, kwa education, asinawuyamkela asiyixoleli into kokuba incwadi zingafiki ngexesha elifanelekileyo. Uba sinabantu abaqeshelwe uplana kakuhle basebenze ngozinikela onke amasebe karhulumente efuneka ebambisene, leyo into siyayilandelela, and surely there will be consequence management in that regard. So aba bantwana sibathuthayo siyayazi ba inani labo alaneli, abantu basakhalaza, kodwa yimali ekhoyo eburhulumenteni yokuthutha abantwana abayi-103 for service providers and get challenges ezikhoyo. I've been assured by the Treasury and with Department of Transport that they've tried to sort out the problem which was there to make sure that all service providers are paid, and we are expecting them to be paid by next week. Honorable members, the COVID-19 fourth wave has not been severe in our province. We attribute this to 2 main factors: the adherence of our people to COVID-19 protocols and the uptake of the vaccine. We want to applaud the 1.8 million people of our province who took their COVID-19 jabs. They have contributed to the reduction of the spread of the virus. We urge the age group between 12 and 49 years to come forward to get their jabs so we can reach the herd immunity. The vaccines are safe and have protected many of our people against severe illnesses in the fourth wave. Nam dimekule ndawo uba beningavaccinatanga mhlambe ngeningasekho ndiyakholelwa uba ndinqandelwa i-vaccine kube kanti ndisakwazi uma ndithethe nabantu ngolu hlobo. Honorable Speaker, with the establishment of the second medical school at the Nelson Mandela University, our efforts to build capacity in the health sector received a boost. This school has admitted its first intake of students. We have also established 2 cerebral palsy centers at Nelson Mandela Academic Hospital as well as in Cecilia Makiwan. Silungisala ngxaki ke medical legal ngoku kokwenza as services. Honorable members will remember that we invested 590 million to rehabilitate health facilities as part of the COVID-19 response plan. We have completed 77 of the 85 projects, and this gave us 2,209 COVID-19 isolation beds. This is a legacy that will benefit our communities beyond COVID-19. Iyo lento sathi asifuna ukwenza temporal arrangement masiyokokha esibhedlela songeze ibed esibhedlela so that yawugqithi COVID-19 sisheke sinezibhedlela ezikumgangatho obhetere. Most of our hospitals now can offer better oxygen, with the bulk oxygen being available in terms of infrastructure in those hospitals. As part of our health infrastructure improvement, we are rebuilding Spetu. We are almost completing that more than $500 million project. Yes, Spetu. Ubo uya Spetu, uzawusuka ku N2, uhambe ngendlela yetha, uyofika phaya Spetu, esibhedlela ufikele kwi state of the art facility eyakhiwe ngento more than $500 million hospital. Ungaya uyoyibona uzafika ikhona. We also appreciate the private sector contribution to our health care service. This includes a private general center offering access to private paying patients. Apa eqonza ogqirha abalapha abamnyama badibene bokha isibhedlele apa ba-investa into more than 250 million. Isibhedlele esizawulinkwa phaya eGrey so that i-specialists ezikwesa sibhedlele zikwazi ufumaneka kubantu bakuthi abangathathi intweni abalapha kwisibhedlele sikarhulumente. Also, we have got an East London Eye Day Hospital, the fully fledged Royal Buffalo City Specialist Hospital in East London, just adjacent to Efre. Uyayibona kukho ifacility enkulu eyokhiwayo. That project is a project of more than 500 million coming from the private sector to help us really consolidate our intervention in the health sector. In addition to these, 2 other private healthcare facilities have been established in Gqeberha with a combined investment of more than creating about 500 permanent jobs and close to 300 construction jobs. Uyazi Honorable Panga ebese suka phana kwakusekutsha kana ulibala msinyo suka kulanda umsebenzi osiwenzayo pha kulanda somlomo inhlupheko into esifuna ukuyisiphula nengcambu kweliphondo lethu. Through the SASSA social grant, 29 billion per annum is invested in our provincial economy. Honorable Tetyana, ngenyanga almost 2.4 billion ingena apha ekuhlaleni kwethu. Yiyo lento ubona apha edutywa xa ugodukileyo xa kuphela inyanga ungahambeki. Nobubheka ngapha emqandulu nobubheka ngapha kuhambeki. Yila 2.9 billion engena ngenyanga. But umbuzo ke ngokuba le mali yawuba ingenile isincedisa njani ekukwazeni ukukhulisa ezoqoqosho. Ngonyaka la mali yonke is 29 billion that is being invested, supporting almost 3 million people per month. 3 million people but benefit apa, which is almost more than 50% of our population. In addition, more than 6,000 needy people who do not qualify for social grants benefited through the social relief of distress. In an effort to restore family units, 33,300 families participated in parenting programs to enhance strong relationship between children, their parents, and the entire family. More than 1,300 family members from all 8 districts and metros were reunited with their families. Noko ayikho right. Ayinodibela ixanduva karhulumente ukudibanisa umzali nomntanakhe. noko sisizwe ekucaca into okokuba siyalahlekana nobuntu ngezinye izinto, kodwa ke luxanduva lethu into okokuba singabi nabantu abahlala ezitratweni, sibakhangele, sibaqokelele, sibadibanise nabantu babo bakwazi abantu uthatha uxanduva. The non-profit organizations are critical partners in supporting government on implementation of social upliftment program. To this end, 121 million has been allocated to 6,600 non-profit organizations. We are also assisting ex-miners in our province to access their benefits from mining provident funds. So far, 13,639 claimants have been compensated for occupational diseases. Siyayazi ba ibinhlungu ke le ex-miners. Ngoku nasiyichophela umcimbi ubeke apha phambi kwezandla zethu uqinisekisa ba siyawulungisa. Somlomo sikholelwa ukuba ukuze sikwazi ukuphelisa intswelo ngqesho, inhlupheko ukungalingani kwanokuvuselela uqoqosho lwethu, kufuneka sibe norhulumente onesiseko esiluqilima. I want to assure the people of our province that we are making progress in building a capable state that is fit for purpose to address the challenges facing us. One major step that we have taken in ensuring the administrative leadership stability, one major step that we have taken in ensuring the administrative leadership stability in the province is to fill all 13 posts, the head of departments in our administration. 6 of those posts zikhokelwe ngomama, inhloko zamasebenzi ntandathu ngomama, malibongwe. To build capacity in the administration, 3,336 vacant posts were filled and 6,370 young people were appointed as interns. This is to ensure we develop a new cadre and inculcate a new culture in the public service. We have initiated lifestyle audit prioritizing members of the Executive Council and heads of department. For the first time in the history of our democracy, we removed the cloud of secrecy on procurement by disclosing on a quarterly basis the names of companies that were awarded bids in our province. Umuntu ozakwenza i-business norhulumente funeka be prepared, uyazi bafuneka aziwe ngabantu base-Eastern Cape bayena usebenza norhulumente. Siphelisa into yoshishino norhulumente olungacacanga kuba imali karhulumente funeka siyazi ba ibheka phi kwaye yenza ntoni. Sizokwazi ubakhuthaza abo basebenza norhulumente batyale imali zabo kurhulumente nalapha ebantwini khona ukuze uzoqoqosho lwethu lukhule. Our government is committed in quelling the perception that we are a haven for corruption. In this regard, we are considering recommendations emanating from forensic and investigative reports by state institutions, including findings of the Commission on the State Capture and the Special Investigations Unit. In cases where actions are recommended, we will not hesitate to act against those implicated, both in the public and private sector. We call upon the law enforcement agencies and the justice system to act without fear or favor and with greater speed in bringing the perpetrators to book. Sayiphelisa into yoba yabasebenzi abashishina norhulumente kuba bona abasebenzi banemivuzo abayirholayo qho ngenyanga. Siyazazi ezanto zimane zithethwa zokokuba wa contract, wa temporal, wa intern. Sithi asifuni kwa mntu ongumsebenzi karhulumente ngumthetho. Ayisathi noba disclosure ithi uba ngumsebenzi karhulumente sukwenza ushishino norhulumente. So siyabakhuthaza abantu bayihloniphe loo nto kwaye sisebenza kuloo nto ukuqinisekisa ukuba sigutyula yonke into engacacanga eburhulumenteni bethu. We strive to restore credibility and sound ethics in our procurement system. We urge Eastern Cape citizens to report acts of soliciting bribes and acts of corruption wherever they come across them. In this environment of tight fiscal constraints, it became necessary for us to find creative ways of augmenting our resources. Our revenue collection has improved, and so far we have collected about 3.8 billion towards our term target of 4.5 billion. As a caring government, we have instituted dedicated measures to assist our former employees and their beneficiaries to access their long outstanding benefits from government employment petition funds. In partnership with the government pension administration agents, we have since traced nearly half of those beneficiaries, and 245 of them have been paid already. To ensure that we do not subject our people to this pain, are already implementing measures to ensure timely processing of employee exit benefit. Does not make sense. Umuntu aphuma emsebenzini ahlala iminyaka emithathu esihlenyuka phakathi kwembizana neBhisho phakathi komthatha nemakliye efunana nemali zakhe ebesaziwa phofu ba lo muntu uyaphuma kwisystem kukungakhathali. Ubudilishana ke nabasebenzi abanjengotishara bathi aba bakwi-administration abasebenzi babhatalwa promptly. Bona bangabasebenzi befuna babhatala abanye abasebenzi abayenzi lona. So sitheke HODs, part of their performance areas that we'll be able to focus on is to ensure that these problems ziyaphela kwa education, ziyaphela kwa health. Improving audit outcomes is another target of our administration, and we see light at the end of the tunnel. There's been an improvement in the 2020 and 2021 PFMA audit outcomes of our departments compared to the previous financial years. Two more departments, COGTA and DESREC, have attained clean audit. Congratulations to them. Outcomes, adding to the provincial treasury and community safety, thereby increasing the number of departments with clean audit outcome to 4. It is also worth mentioning that 7 public entities out of 11 sustained their unqualified audit opinions with no findings. We are already implementing measures to increase the number of institutions attaining clean audit. Watch the space. Many departments will be in that space very soon. I know the lives of your Office of the Premier. Sebeshiyeke njengomlenze omnye MEC. Bawelele ngaphesheya. Asilali ukuqinisekisa uba lo msebenzi esiwuphatha ngezandla ezinobunono. On education and health, we have red flags that we need to respond to as they lead to perennial budgetary shortages. The financial instability in the 2 departments leads to poor quality education and the health services, non-payment of service providers, and budget cuts in other government departments. In response, we have developed an integrated turnaround strategies for both departments. For health, our focus is on financial sustainability and corporate services, among other areas. This we will do by optimizing budget, reducing losses, increasing revenue, collection, managing costs, drivers, doing more with less, leveraging ICT, ensuring effective finance and supply chain management. To reduce the medical legal litigation costs, we want to stop the outflow of lump sum payments by effectively managing current cases and strengthening administration system to prevent recurrence. On education, we are eliminating cost of employees inefficiencies, improving corporate governance, automating leave management, and streamlining business processes. We are also resourcing learning and teaching for improved learner attainment. The ongoing provincial government intervention in the Department of Health will be extended to include the Department of Education. To assume the desired effect, the OTP will strengthen the coordination of these interventions. Somlomo siphuma kunyulo lohulumende wasemakhaya apho imibutho ibizithengisa khona icacisa ukuba iza kuqhubela njani phambili umsebenzi wokuphuhliso lwabantu bakuthi. Following the conclusion of the elections, new councillors were sworn in and troikas elected. We hope they will uphold the principle of putting people first. We congratulate the newly elected leadership of SALGA. We look forward to working with SALGA in the province to improve the performance of our municipalities on service delivery and financial management. The dedicated support we provide to municipalities on financial management is yielding positive results. In the 2019-2020 outcomes, we saw the movement of 4 municipalities from a disclaimer to a qualified audit outcome. and 2 municipalities obtaining a clean audit. This is not good. We need to do more there in that space. Every mayor must understand, every municipal manager must understand that for us to have and address the problem of trust deficit, we've got to address this problem of financial accountability and transparency in that, taking full responsibility. And this is where the provincial government working with national, we are not going to turn our blind eye on that. We are putting this situation under microscopic view. We anticipate further improvement in the 2020 and 2021 municipal audit outcomes. As a province that has a huge developmental challenges, particularly in the local government sphere, we embrace the district development model, which calls on the 3 spheres of government, including non-government actors, to plan, budget, and execute developmental projects together. Towards this, we completed and submitted 8 DDM-1 plans to Department of Cooperative Governance. It is now time to implement these plans. The DDM as a lever for successful implementation of our province's catalytic projects. The Office of the Premier will strengthen the coordination of all the stakeholders to ensure the meaningful contribution to local development. We will work with the new leadership in the municipalities to achieve the following development of provincial green economy strategy to mitigate the climate change effects, to keep local spaces clean, and to ensure sustainable development, improvement of land use for development, engagement of traditional leaders, strengthening and enforcement of bylaws, building the capacity of municipalities to enhance their response to disasters, reduction of debt owed to municipalities through pay for your service campaign. Amasebe kahulumende makawabhadale imali yomasipala. Nomasipala mabambhadale u-Eskom so that kusetyenzwe kakuhle wonke umuntu enze umsebenzi wakhe enezixhobo zosebenza. The provincial government has been providing support to municipalities so that they can attract investors while improving the quality of services rendered to communities. Part of this support is the Small Town Revitalization Program, which focuses on improving water, sanitation, electricity, and road infrastructure. We have attained our targets of implementing the program in the initial 10 small towns. Through this program, 7,218 jobs were created and 207 SMMEs benefited from contracts. We expect municipalities to maintain the infrastructure provided in these small towns. An amount of 433 million is allocated in the 2021-2022 medium-term expenditure framework to expand the program with an additional 14 projects in 8 more municipalities. Honorable members, housing delivery is a basic human right enshrined in our constitution. In the current term, we have restored the dignity of thousands of destitute families through housing units we have built. These have mainly benefited the most vulnerable in our province, including 12,475 women, 3,341 young people, and 109 persons with disabilities. However, many of our people have not yet enjoyed this basic human right and are living in informal settlements. To meet our term target, we have put in place mechanisms to address weaknesses in planning, project management, and beneficial administration in the Department of Human Settlement. Somlomo, ulwaphulomthetho ngomnye umngeni esiqobisana nawo kweliphondo lethu. Ukugetyengwa kosapho lakwaGeorge Kutsolo Lulele kunye nokubulawa ngolunya kukaNosicelo Mtebeni kudandalazisa elubala ubunzima bomthwalo esijongene nawo. Our response to the pandemic of gender-based violence and femicide will be enhanced with establishment of the provincial DNA laboratory. This facility is at the construction stage. In 2022, the focus will be on resourcing the laboratory to be fully operational by February 2023. This investment will go a long way in reducing the backlog in gender-based violence and femicide cases. We are worried about the long time it takes to prosecute and to finalize gender-based violence cases. The conviction also do not seem to serve as an effective deterrent as sexual offenses have continued to be on the rise. Ngakho ke sizobongoza zonke inkokheli ezomthonyama, inkokheli zopolitiko, inkokheli zasekuhlaleni, abantu bonke ngokubanzi jikelele ukuba wonke umuntu athathe uxanduva ukulwa nalomkhuba. Siyabulela kubantu abafana notata uPetros Majola abathe gqolo ukukhalimela ukuhlukunyezwa kwamanina kwakunye nabantwana abangamantombazana kwanabo bantwana abangamakhwenkwe. Utata uMajola ukhona apha phakathi kwethu namhlanje njengendwendwe lethu. Sizowunika imbeko kwijoni elizinikezeleyo ngaphandle kwenjongo zengeniso nenzuzo esenza umsebenzi wokunqanda umkhuba owenziwa ngotata komama. Madam Speaker, we strongly condemn the emerging incidents of organized killing in our communities. We appreciate the announcement by the National Minister of Police to establish a specialized investigating unit to speed up investigation into the Gqeberha matters, which appear to be organized crime. Sinengxaki phaya eGqeberha. Yokuba kube lula ukubulawa kwabantu. Sinengxaki phaya eGqeberha. Yamaqumrhu akuthiwa ngamagintsa, namaqumrhu akuthiwa zii-gangsters, nabanye nje abaphila enxebeni. So iyafuna uba abantu baseGqeberha sibame ngenyawo. I-Nelson Mandela Metro is our economic hub. Zonke ezinto sizithethileyo apha ngasentla zinkulu ze-investment, ne-economic growth, ne-catalytic projects. Azuzukwazi ukwenzeka pha xa izaba sisigqubu sokwenziwa noba intoni abantu bangakhuseleki. Siyabacela abantu sifomishe i-street committees, siqiniseke uba sisebenza namapolisa, sinqande silwe nolwaphulomthetho. Siyasebenza ukongeza i-police station njengapha koCheti nakwezinye i-police station esizakhayo. 7 more police stations will be opened in the near future, 2 in the next financial year, namely Huku police stations, eKwabhaca, Moyeni police station, eNgqushwa, Majola, Mdeni, Ntamonde, Tabase, Tafale Hashi police stations will be opened by 2024 ukuya ku-2026. Urhulumente uzama uqinisa isandla ekulwiseni nolwaphulomthetho, anike izixhobo ezifanelekileyo abantu ngokubanzi. Siqinisekise uba eza CPFs zikhona, abantu bayakwazi ukugadana. Honorable members, in building a better Africa and the better world, we have interacted with several countries and multilateral institutions. We are establishing a new cooperation with the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area and building relations with the regions in the African continent. The German government will continue to assist us to grow and improve the performance of the agricultural sector through our twinning arrangement. We urge the Eastern Cape business to leverage opportunities that will accrue out of these diplomatic and economic relations. Honorable members, the province of the Eastern Cape prides itself as the home of legends. In appreciating the role played by our forebears in bringing us where we are, we have named a number of our government facilities after these legends. That include the Bhisho State House, which is now known as Lillian Dedrick's House. In Nelson Mandela Metro, the Brewster House has been renamed after Umama Lillian Dedricks as well. David Stirman Airport, now Paya Gqeberha, Apa, Buffalo City, Sine King Palo Airport. Ningalahleki. Honorable Speaker, we all have the responsibility of contributing to the building of a prosperous Eastern Cape, the one we all want. Sihlaba ikhwelo kubo bonke abemi beluphondo ukuba baphakame balime umhlaba bafuye imfuyo ukugxotha ikati eziko. Sikwahlaba ikhwelo kuluntu lonke ekulweni nobundlobongela, ukutshiswa kwempahla karhulumente, ukusetyenziswa kweziyobisi nolwaphulomthetho olugqugqisayo kwiphondo lethu. Let us all stand up to fight lawlessness and rampant crime in our province. It is in our hands. Somlomo obekekileyo liyinene elithi xa sibambisene simxhelomnye senza lukhulu. The work we have done in pursuing our priorities would not have been possible without the involvement of critical stakeholders in our province. The multi-stakeholder collaboration in the implementation of the provincial COVID-19 response plan has considerably contributed in mitigating the effects of the pandemic. We extend a very profound word of gratitude to traditional leaders, religious leaders, civic organization leaders, labor, and business leaders for their continued support in the fight against COVID-19. Through our collaborative effort, we saved a lot of lives. We appreciate healthcare workers and frontline workers who have been at the cold face of fighting the pandemic. Sibamba ngazibini mawethu ngentsebenziswano. Bantu baseMpuma Kapa kukho into ethi uhambo lwemayile eziliwaka luqala ngenyathelo elinye. A journey of 1,000 miles start by one step. Injongo zalentetho besiyenza apha namhlanje ibikukunibonisa amanyathelo esiwathathileyo kumsebenzi wokwakha eliphondo lethu. Libe liphondo elinekamva eliqaqambileyo. Yes, there are challenges, but they are not insurmountable. We are motivated by the desire to see you, the people of our province, living a better life. Kulithamsanqa kuthi ukuba kuba zizicaka zenu kulo msebenzi enisithume wona wokuphucula ubomi benu. Hlalani nisazi zethu zixakeke ukuphucula inhlalo nobomi benu mihla yonke, hayi ukuphuhlisa iziqu zethu. Sisebenzisene kakuhle kakhulu ekulweni intsholongwane ye-COVID-19 nangona siphulukene nabantu abaninzi nje. Kuphinde kwafika ixesha lwenkqubo yokubalwa kwabantu. Siyabulela kubantu bephondo lethu esele bebaliwe ngokubonakalisa umdla nokuthatha kwabo inxaxheba kolubalo lwe-census 2022. Siyabakhuthaza abo bangekabalwa ukuba basabele eliphulo kuba kaloku ubungakanani besabelo mali sethu buxhomekeke kumanani achanekileyo abemi beliphondo. So kubalulekile uba abantu bayobalwa. Masibalwe kwakufika ixesha lokubalwa so that urhulumente akwazi ukujonga inkqubo zophuhliso ezifanelekileyo nokwazi inani labantu abafanelwe zinkonzo. Yiyo ke loo nto simemelela kubo bonke abantu ukuba baphakame baqinisekise ukuba babaliwe. Masiqhubeke sibambisene nakwezinye inkqubo zikarhulumente. Continue to walk with us on our journey of building the Eastern Cape we want. Step by step, year by year, we are making this province better for the benefit of all our people. Ndiyabulela ngokundiboleka kwenu indlebe zenu maze nethole. Enkosi kakhulu Somlomo.
Thank you so much, honorable members. Thank you so much, honorable Premier. I was worried at one stage listening to honorable Premier making these pronouncements and achievements, and members were like, and then Premier had to come in and say, you may clap now, trying to invigorate you. I'm not sure if it's the evening session or not, but they don't seem to be that energetic. But I can see they've been roused now. Thank you so much, honorable members. Now we have actually come to the end of our program. I will allow the secretary just to make a few announcements. Secretary, over to you.
Speaker, guests are now invited by the Honorable Speaker for a light snack. We have 3 seating areas, honorable members, in the dining hall, as well as in the members' lobby. And both of them, they extend to a tent outside so that we ensure compliance with COVID-19 regulations. We do want also that you note that those that prefer halal will be served in the lobby. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you so much, Secretary, for that. Honorable members, before we adjourn, I think it is just prudent. No, Honorable Banga, we are not finished yet. I don't want to hear you. Thank you so much. I forgot initially the honorable members of our NCOP delegates. Let me acknowledge you. I forgot to mention you. I see you are sitting there. You are most welcome. This is your house as much as it is our house. Thank you for gracing us with your presence this evening. The Premier has already acknowledged all his guests, and we once again want to acknowledge your presence, the HODs as well as the special guests of the Premier. This is what COVID-19 does, that only the Premier gets that special preference to invite guests to the house. We also need to acknowledge that for this event, we know that as we are happy, Premier, that you have acknowledged that the income is in the Provincial Revenue Fund is there, Secretary, but we are all under austerity measures. And I am so eager now to take up the engagement with the Honorable MEC of Provincial Treasury and his HOD. I can see he's already giving me the thumbs up, but we need to acknowledge the sponsors that we've received from Old Mutual. Thank you so much for the representatives. They are not here, but for reaching out to us, as well as MTN. And I think it would be befitting for me also to acknowledge the team of the legislature, led by the Secretary and Advocate Beja, for coordinating since last year this event. We start very early. Most people will not know, but thank you so much. And to you, honorable members, for respecting this house and the dignity of this house. Thank you for coming out and for enjoying this opportunity to sit and to listen to us. I will now formally conclude the business of the day, and please remind you that the House will adjourn until Tuesday, the 22nd of February 2022 at 1400 hours for the SOPA debate. Thank you. The House is adjourned.
injalo lonto nimvile ke thethe qhamza ngalomtyunga nomtyangambo wentetho ngobume bephondo leMpuma Kapa. Uzawuva wena bazayityakatya bayicuceze naba bahlele ecamkwam baxele uba beve ntoni, uphose ntoni, ubambe ntoni. Kunjalo nje mhlawumbi ingaba xa uthelekisa mhlawumbi nale intetho yalo nyaka 2022 neka 2021 neminyaka engadluleyo, mhlawumbi zikhona ezidibanayo, zikhona ezenzekileyo, zikhona ezingenzekanga, mhlawumbi izizathu zinoba zithini
We're definitely going to be unpacking all of that. And I think there's a lot that we need to go into, especially when we're juxtaposing this year's State of the Province address to that of the last year. So that's how things finalized there. The Speaker officially concluding the business of the day there at the Raymond Mhlaba Chambers. That's at the Provincial Legislature right here in Bhisho, where we are hosting this special broadcast. And now, without any further ado, Ongama, I'm going to pick on you first. I mean, there's a lot that's been said. There's a lot that we were engaging on just before the Premier tabled his address this evening. What is for you the one thing that stood out?
Sure. So There was a feel-good thing about the speech to me. Here's a trick about states of province addresses or nation addresses. They are misnamed. They should be named what the president or what the premier wants to write home about, because that's what they're about. It's about what are those things which government feels they are getting right and want to share with the public. Now we get the true state of things in that debate period, when opposition parties begin to challenge certain claims, and we get a broader perspective. Otherwise, I was very happy. I had to manage myself to stay objective in the sense that there are a lot of exciting things that are happening. Particularly for me, I'm a development activist, and I strongly want to support the development of the Eastern Cape. So it was quite good to see how projects we fought very hard for in the late 90s, early 2000s, have now become the catalysts as far as inward investment coming into the province. And without those projects, maybe there would be limited options for making investments in the province. So I'm excited about that. Kucha, Islam, SZ. It's good to hear that the Wild Coast is coming up, the SZ there is coming up with completion in Timbaza. Here's what we need to do. We cannot allow government to invest alone, because once the facility has been upgraded, you need credible businesses that can come in Timbaza at the SZs in the Wild Coast to operate credible businesses. So generally I'm happy, but the reason why I acknowledge that we've been tricked by being told what the politician wants to write home about as opposed to the true state of the province is that, one, we don't see whatever are the good things spoken of against the backdrop of what mess is there. So especially, I mean, yes, the premier acknowledged the state of lack of transparency and how we have certain municipalities are failing, and to the extent of saying this is wrong, it must stop. However, we don't know how much is there non-expenditure of conditional grants, which has been an issue in this province for many, many, many decades, and whether or not we're improving on that front. And also the expenditure which he claims, I think above 50%, if I listened well. To what extent did that expenditure achieve the results that it was intended to achieve? To what extent did it leak through corruption and all sorts of things which make us, while we may tick the box as far as expenditure is concerned, but not reach the intended objectives on the ground?
Wena ungathi mhlawumbe ungenzeka upremier ebemamele ezancoko besizenza apha phambi koba athathe iqondo.
Hayi tata Msasazi, mna, it was a good speech. Generally, the posture and the articulation by the premier generally, he is a convincing man. He is a real politician. He talks from his heart. He has got passion. We are fun as a President Ramaphosa. When you listen to him, you can feel that this person is got passion about his country. He has got passion about this province. He talks about things that are done. But you remember in the Pundus there, because we're a rural province, people are expecting practical steps. One thing that is lacks in politicians generally is to come up with action plan, achievable, step by step. If in the mill and swalent abankulu, what the fundendo and bithetwa practically, because every board mameleyo plus 7.2 million, what is it for me? What is it for me in this what has been presented? So Mananto, Premier talks about 2.9 billion that comes into this province monthly from the fiscus to assist people from social development. I can tell you now, 90% of that money leaves this province within 5 days. We need to check what is it that we can do to ensure. Now, if I was a politician, I was going to say grant cards must work in black businesses only. And then AfriForum will fight me, takes me to court, but I would be bold to say, imali yale province, problem yalapa, imali circulate. It comes in and goes out. Otherwise, the thing that he's saying, I had expected to hear much about the medical claims that continue to haunt this province, that the money leaves. It's taken. As a result, people are suffering in hospitals because the budget is spent on these things.
Dr. Lonzo, hold that thought right there. We're definitely going to be getting into just the gist of what the Premier had said and unpacking it. For now, we're going to go to a short break. Do stay with us.
We continue to build the Eastern Cape that we want by remaining committed to rebuilding our economy and creating an enabling environment for investment through infrastructure development. We remain a home to leading global brands investing in the Eastern Cape economy. In the past year only, our IDZs attracted investment in the automotive sector to the value of more than 400 million. We also welcomed our rail giant, Transnet, when they moved their offices to Gqeberha, translating to more investment and economic spin-offs for the citizens of the province. Small and medium enterprises remain our priority as key drivers of economic development and job creation. This is why 70 SMMEs and cooperatives received government support through business incubation in 2021. We continue to build and maintain strategic roads and transport infrastructure to create access to economic opportunities and social amenities for all. This is all part of our provincial development plan, growing an inclusive and equitable economy.
Eastern Cape, home of legends.
And welcome back to this special broadcast of the State of the Province address, which of course we've just heard. The Premier had just concluded his address for the year 2022, and we've got a gist of what it is that they plan for the Eastern Cape in this year. For now, we're also going to continue to find out what people are thinking around what the Premier had to say. We're going to go outside now to one of our by Lumka Bekindao.
Sesiphumile ke apha kwi-stage lapho ke besisenza uPremier edakanca izinto ezizothi zenziwe apha kweli phondo leMpuma Kapa kulo nyaka u-2022. Kodwa ke ukuqhubeleka banzi sivile khankanya nezinto eziza kunceda isebe lezemfundo. Apha xa kwam ndinaye umphathiso wesebe lezemfundo apha kwisebe leMpuma apha kwiphondo leMpuma Kapa, yena ke uFundile Kade. Mphathiso, masikubulisele sikwamkele eMpuma Kapa.
Andisibulisele msasazi baphulaphuli.
Kwizinto azithethileyo apha inkulu baphathiswa ingaba wanelisekile?
Ndingatsho into yokubana saneliseke kakhulu njengesigqeba esilawulayo sikarhulumente, kwaye sinethemba futhi into yokubana sizawuzimisela kangangoko sinako ukuba sibe nendlela yokuzenza ezaa zinto ziphaa kwesaa speech sikaPremier njengomgaqo-nkqubo karhulumente waseMpuma Koloni sibe yimpumelelo, ngakumbi ke ngokwamasebe ngamasebe athakanyiweyo.
All right. MEC, recently sine-problems into yobana khona abantwana abangakwazi ukuya esikolweni ngenxa yeskola transport. And also can you ugxile kwizinto ezifana nezikolo ezithe zathiwa xa i-disaster kunyaka ophelileyo?
Ewe, siye sanengxakana nomphathiswa wakwa-transport umama uTikane ngenxa yengxaki ye-statistics nedatha ibiqokelelwa ngokwe-systems ke zikarhulumente, ebibangelwa ke kukonyuka kwamanani kakhulukazi kuba xa sijikeleza apha ephondweni besiye sifumanisa into yoba kukho abantwana abanintsi abangakwaziyo ukutransporteka, kufuneke singenelele ke ngokuloo nto. Yenza ke ngokuloo nto ukushukuxeka kwemali ebeyinikiwe umphathiswa wakwa-transport nathi silisebe lezemfundo ebeselikhuphile ukwenzela into yobana bakwazi utransporteka abantwana. Kodwa ke ngondimile apha nje ndingatsho into yokuba kule veki siya kuyo siyavumelana into yokubana makube banokwazi ubhataleka bonke abantu ebebechaphazelekile kuloo ngxaki ibikhona, ngakumbi kule micimbi yeskola transport, oonoteksi nabantu bebhasi naye wonke umntu oyi-service provider enikezela ngenkonzo kulo mcimbi weScholar Transport.
Masibambe ngazo zibini kwe-MEC.
Inkosi kakhulu.
Lowo ke nguye ke u-MEC wesebe lezemfundo kwiphondo leMpuma Kapa nobe sicacisela ke mayelana nezinto esithe sajongana nazo apha kwiphondo leMpuma Kapa into ezifana nabantwana abangakwazi ukuya esikolweni. Watsho ecacisa ukuba bekukhona ungquzulwano phakathi kwesebe lezemfundo kwakunye ke nesebe lazo isebe lezothutho. Ziyanda zezinye zezinto zikhona zezinye zezinto ke ezo ezijonge into yobana zibe ziyalungiswa apha eMpuma Koloni.
Is our reporter on the ground there, Lumka Pekinda, who just spoke to the MEC of Education. You heard there, he seems quite satisfied with what the Premier had to say this evening, but also highlighting that they've had some issues with the MEC of Transport. Those are just some of the things that we're going to be going into post this State of the Province address. We do have a guest in studio, Mpuma Kapa.
Oh, ngujana lo. Ngumnumzana ubabalo. Matigezela ngumphathiswa wezemisebenzi karhulumente molo mphathiswa uyimamele wayijika-jika wacinga ntoni intetho eyenziwe ngumphathi inkulumbuso yephondo?
Ndiyimamele ndabona ukuba i-province is on the right track in trying to deal with the challenges that are facing the province, especially when it relates to the department endiyikhokheleyo endisayinikwe konomzuzu. One of the priorities esasethembise ngazo uba sozenza kubantu baseMpuma Koloni ukucreate a one-stop shop for our people. Senze i-office centers besendaweni eyi-1. Imizekelo kulena beseyibalisile ke esiyenzileyo Premier, where we've spent more than 400 million esele silonchile, plus nekwezinye esazaziqala. Umzekelo becacisa into yoba i-Alfredso emaXesibeni siqalile kunyaka ophelileyo kuyohandover icontract kwenza i-earthworks. Apho sizobe sifaka khona a 500 million development ukwenza again i-offices. 500 development ezawukhula i-end up to over 2 billion. Because emaXesibeni sizakwenza zonke i-provincial offices, district offices under one shop, 9 departments. Kwakhiwe ne-human settlements for abasebenzi abasebenza offices bahlale kwalapha. Kube khona ne-shopping mall ezabakhona, some shopping complex. So developments esifuna ukuzisebenzisa as enablers to attract investment in local municipalities or district municipalities. So that's what we'll be doing across the province. But I don't want to ndingene nzulu kuba namtsazawuya
kodwa kubuhlungu kuyo yonke lento. Ewe uthetha kamandi ungathi amasebe karhulumente azawufikelela ngokulula kuba azabakho phansi kuzo zonke indawo njengoba kudala izinto zacwangciswa. Yintoni bibambile?
Look, i-budget. It talks about i-budget. Bekuyi-budget, but e-Alwal North umzekelo lena besinikezela ngayo kulo nyaka ophelileyo cost around 230 million besenziwa ngurhulumente. Ithathe plus or minus 4 years. There's also another one, Krisani, lebesiyenza, Queenstown. So now, so I'm saying it's a plan government as well. It's a multi-year because the budget. Remember, we're not only doing offices as public works. When nezinye izinto, so funakwa kwenezikolo and so forth. So zininzi izinto. So part of the budget. Ifana nakwakho msasazi. Awenzi yonke into ofuna ukuyenza. No dinga ukuyenza emzini wakho. So wenza enye, but the point in yoba we are starting to see as the plans CCs are in place. Njengoba sisitsho already, there are 3 SSCs in Ndoville of more than 400 million. There's one of 500 million esele ubuya esara Batman eAdo sesiqalile again ukufensa for another precinct. So it's a plan. So we can't do everything at once. It will take time. Because we are talking about hundreds of millions. It's not just small projects. And nalapho, even before when the law, kune infrastructure already, you know, your water, umbane, and everything else. So are your projects that you can just think we end overnight? Same as the Bhisho precinct. Talking of a development of more than 2 billion, it's not a project that you can just do it overnight. There's a lot of planning. You know, and there's a lot of readiness to receive the project. As I'm saying, must be ready to receive the infrastructure so that e-services is. So it's not a easy thing that you might look at. Yeah.
Njengoba usitsho nje uba ezi plans nakhe nazithembisa before naxinga ke kwi-budget njengoba usitsho. What makes you optimistic that this time you're not going to have the same issue around budget, as you say, because you're speaking as like if you are spreading yourself thin. So what makes you so optimistic this time around?
No, kange kuxinga kwi-budget. I'm saying asikwazanga uzenza zonke ngenxa ye-budget.
Okay.
That is why ezezintathu bezibalile uPremier azenziwe ngamaxesha different. Kuqalwe nge-Alwal North kwenziwa ngenye yasemaXesibeni kwenziwa ngenye. So I'm saying ziyenziwa. It's not like kuxingiwe. Like the three as mentioned sezinikezelwe sekusetyenzelwa kuzo. Lena kuxoxwa ngayo semaXesibeni seqalile nokontraka bese hand over kulo nyaka ophelileyo. So I'm saying but it's bigger. Ado sekuqaliwe kuyafenswa se-appointwe nokontraka kwenza i-fencing. So there's work being done. So that as I'm saying, from planning stage, you start by identifying a land. Uba awungowenu ni uthenge, uservicewe, ne appoint professionals to do planning designs, si approve. So till the last point where you see the building in Yuga. So there's a lot of msebenzi ongakwazi ukubona because it's just office based. So yeah.
There's been a lot of unemployment that's taken place in the previous year. You will know, even the president mentioned at the State of the Nation address not too long ago. Projects of this nature, what opportunities do they then bring for employment in the region?
Look, there's a lot of employment opportunities as well. Like one at the tail end, you work on canteens where you to run them. Opportunities like your shops, your coffee shops or restaurants for abantu where employment opportunities. But even at construction stage, abantu ba benefit ngokusebenza pha ne-SMMEs esizifaka pha for bazikwazi ufuna better grades, even a supply material. So there's a lot of value chain that we create. That is why we are trying to make sure that we create one-stop shop. We bring them when they want, because we want to make sure in Dioba there's a lot of value chain created. As I was saying, just one example, when you have got that office present there, definitely you'll have a preschool. Kunabantu sebefaka applications okufaka preschool. Uba ngoku abazali basemsebenzini, they'll be looking after kids. There's also some abesebefuna land parcel ukwenza a private hospital, because they are saying when you've got all these people beshala up, then you also need a hospital in Alfredo. So I'm saying there are a lot of opportunities. Now it's up to also the business people to take advantage of that. Like what the president was saying, the private sector, if they can come in, invest, they'll assist in creating the opportunities. Government, we are enablers. We bring opportunities. That's why we're saying we're trying to use the properties as enabler. We're trying to use the office presence by bringing them in one shop, have everyone busy in one area. So we need to partner with the private sector to come invest in the opportunities that we've created.
Well, thank you so much, MEC. That is MEC Babalo Matikizela, the MEC of Public Works, joining us here after the State of the Province. This is, of course, the special broadcast of the SOPA 2022. Mpuma Mabuyane is standing by now with Yandia Yekana.
Aze masibambe ngazo zibini izikhona njengoba besenitshilo earlier on dathi umninzi umuntu lapha kwaye bekudala sifuna ukufakana imilomo nenkokheli ke ezisemibuthweni eyahlukeneyo ezinesemagunyeni aphezulu qhanto njeni ixesha ke belikhatshwe nguToki kodwa ke ngoku sinalo ixesha ke no Mr Yazini Thetyana ongusihlalo ke ephondweni kumbutho we-EFF naye ke bezile wazomamela kokuwiswa kwentetho yobume bephondo ngutata Oscar Mabuyane namhlanje masibulise sikwamkele kunjani kuwe tata uThetyana.
Inkosi kakhulu umsasazi sibulise namaphulaphula.
Sicela uqonda namhlanje kulo wisontetho yephondo expectations zakho ingaba zenzekile na ezizinto bulindele noba inkulu baphathisa inogxila kuzo.
Akho kwanenye size apha because we had to honor also because we're members the provincial legislature. We knew into kokubana akho nto intsha azawuthetha ngayo iPremier. Siyayazi lento into ehlale sisiyenza each and every year sizapha size for a photo shoot and we go home. This has been proven today. A province in Eastern Cape ingxaki yathi enkulu kakhulu is i-rate ye-unemployment. Akukho nto ithetha ngento yoba sizawuyihlisa kanjani. Stats SA released 4 reports in the last financial year or in 2021. From the first report in Q1 up until the last quarter, they are releasing to say that Eastern Cape has the highest number of unemployed people, especially amongst the youth. But ukhe wayiva into ethethwa ngaloo nto apha ayikho. Akukho into yoba sizawukwenza kanjani ukuncedisana nabantu bethu. Upremier last time wayithethe ngesiqalo youth fund. Ukhomva ethetha ngayo apha khangumve. Because akho nto yenziwayo apha kuyathethwa kuthiwa sizakwenza into ethile ibuye kuphela unyaka akho kanto iphinde uyive ngayo. Aba bantu baripota ngezinto ezenziwa, for instance kuSandral, they are reporting biggest projects in Msikaba Bridge and all of that. It's not a provincial responsibility, that irresponsibility ya national government. Sinto sifunayo apha sinohulumente sithi urhulumente wephondo. Yintoni urhulumente wephondo ayenzayo ukuzama uncedisana nabantu beliphondo ekuphumeni kobu bugxwayi basihleli kubo? Municipalities are not functioning. You do not hear what interventions are they bringing. Okanye ezisebenzenzile interventions ziphelele phi. That's what we want to hear.
Okay.
How are we going forward from here?
Okay, masibulele ke lo binguye utata uThetyana esuka ke kumbutho we-economic freedom fighters ongaxolanga ke nto nje ke kunyanisiwe xa kusithiwa iliso aliboni ngokubona ngokufanayo besiba kanti yena inkulu baphathiswa yephondo igxilile kwinto ye-unemployment ngamandla kodwa ke yena uthi utata yazini akunjalo kodwa ngoku ke masike sithume umntana evenkileni ke sithi sigada kuyo ke ivenkile.
We continue to build the Eastern Cape that we want by restoring our people's dignity through integrated human settlements with electricity and running water. In the process, providing training and construction opportunities for our youth through programs such as Youth Build and Youth Brigade. Amid the COVID-19 pandemic, our province has demonstrated an improved health profile in the past 2 years. We ranked top 3 in the country when it comes to reaching our vaccination targets, and we continue to save lives through our COVID-19 vaccination program. Our recovery rate is well above 92%. Education remains our priority of priorities as we thrive for an educated, innovative, and empowered citizenry. As a result, our matric class of 2021 made us proud by achieving a 73% pass rate. This was achieved through collaboration of society at large. We do all this to stay true to our provincial development goals of building vibrant and equitably enabled communities and growing a well-rounded, healthy population. Building the Eastern Cape we want.
Eastern Cape, home of legends.
Siyanamkela kakhona kwiMpuma Kapa TV. Sisazoza ngqo sisebhisho apho bekuvula khona ke indlu yoqingqo imithetho yephondo. Apha ke studio sinondwendo lethu umnumzana uXolile Nqatha ngumphathisalo weCOGTA. Molo mntakanqatha. Uyive njani intetho yenkulumbuso namhlanje? Ebesithini kuwe?
Inkulumbuso ichaphazele indlela esesihambile. Ngiyakhumbula uba sisuka phi. And ingxelo ebesenziwa ikomishoni kaZondo isisikhumbuzo esicacela ibala. Uba sisuka kwixesha apho kuthezwe amandla nobunganga indlela urhulumente nolawulo lisebenza ngalo. Kungabikho accountability, kubekho iyahlukwano. Amazinga we-professionalism ne-work ethic ahle abe semaqatheni. Ngoke uNkulumbuso uchazile abamanyathelo esesiwathathile to ensure that we professionalize as part of building the capacity of a developmental state so that i-state sibe capable ukukhokela uphuhliso. Siqinisekisile ukuba kupasa umthetho into yobana amagosa karhulumente angenzi ushishino norhulumente. Ngoba loo nto yenye into ebethe kakhulu leyo indlela urhulumente asebenza ngayo. Njengoba ndithetha nje njengosihlalo wale cluster ye-governance and administration, kunezinga eliphakamileyo ngoku lokudiscloser, not only udiscloser because le nto ithi amagosa ebengakwazi usubmitha i-interest zawo so that ubone bakho conflict of interest na. Umuntu ufuna achaza uba ndinezindlu ezinganga, ndinemoto, ndinebhizinesi, ibhizinesi nayo kweyiphi indawo. Bekune-non-cooperation kuloo nto, ufuna amagosa wasubmit eza forms. Ngoku sifikile kumyingo phaya kuma-96 intsebenziswano ekhoyo. Okwesibini lana nto bethetha ngayo inkulumbuso yento bana kube ne-lifestyle audit ukwenzela ubana izinto nazo masikwazi uzithelekisa nomvuzo wakho. Usomkela lo mvuzo kodwa kasijonge into onazo, izindlu onazo, imoto onazo azidibane ezi zinto ezi. Wodlule nabantu ebefana ubana noko ungezantsi kunabo. So kwenziwa i-lifestyle audit uqalwe ngathi malunga ecabinet kungenwa koo-HOD ngoku uqinisekisa into yobana kuyajongwa indlela esiphila ngayo ngabe iyangqamana na nemivuzo yethu. So ziziteps zokuqala ezizithathileyo ezo endithi ke linyathelo lebheka phambili nale nto ke uphucuka kwe-audit outcomes. Le nto yokuphathwa kwemali uba imali kufuneka iphathwe ngendlela eyiyo kuba xa iphathwa yesheshe ngoba phaya ekuhlaleni xa kuthiwa kune-irregular expenditure kuthathwa uba imali etyiweyo leyo kanti ngenye xesha ayityanga ikhona i-value for money qha kangakulandela imithetho kakuhle xa bekuthengwa loo nto. Kubekho nale wasteful expenditure.
Usicacisela ngayo ingakumbi accountability, and I know that it's something that a lot of people have a lot to say about, and we really want to get into some of those steps that you've taken as a province to tackle with that. But for now, we're going to go to our reporter outside, Lele Tungapi, who's standing by with Mlibo Kobushiane.
Thank you so much, Zikona. As you said, we are joined by the Deputy Speaker of the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature, Mr. Mlibo Kobushiane. Mr. Kobushiane, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and good evening to the viewers at home.
Yes, so let's get straight into it. What are some of the key takeaways that you got from tonight's State of the Province address?
Well, for me, the key highlights is the investment in the infrastructure, especially roads that are interconnecting the towns and the small cities of the province of the Eastern Cape, the emphasis on rural economy and rural development. Of course, we are developing partnership with countries in Europe for better improvement of our trade relations. And the mere fact that we are the best exporter than the importer, that is an indication that our economy can still be performing much more better. I think one thing that we need to invest much on is the creation of opportunities and facilitated industries that will ensure that we are absorbing a lot of young people that are still out of work, whilst they do have energy to provide for their own families. The second thing that I think had to be strengthened is the question of this legislature conducting oversight to avoid issues like wastage and bad use of state resources.
Okay, so then would you say that your expectations were met, or is there anything else that you would have wanted the Premier to focus on?
Oh, well, I can say averagely, yes, we managed, but I still know that because of COVID-19, there were a lot of things that were depressing the economy to grow. Therefore, it's affected the mileage to make an intake of number of people to jobs. This is a real gravitating towards a crisis point. And I think the entire government, municipalities, as well as those agencies of the state need to come together and address this core fundamental. Work is an issue that these countries need. Crime and crime fighting is one element that is cardinally critical.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kobushiane.
Thank you very much.
That was Mr. Mlibo Kobushiane, the Deputy Speaker for the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature, saying that he was satisfied with the speech given by the Premier of the Eastern Cape, but also highlighting the fact that we've done well as a province in especially exporting more than we import. And of course, that's a huge milestone for the province, and we hope to see more good work being done. Back to you in studio, Zikona.
Thank you, Leletu. That was Leletu Ngapi there on the ground, our reporter speaking to the Deputy Speaker, Mlibo Kobushiane, on the ground there. And Mr. Ngata, as we just conclude our conversation here, I mean, you were speaking very broadly about accountability and the steps that you've taken. If you can just expand on that and really the plans that you have to intensify that in this year.
Yeah. Ezinye izinto inkulumbuso ezikhankanyileyo apha kuqinisekisa into yobana zonke ii-departments zinazo ii-HODs. Ngakho bantu ba-actayo abazi-HODs. Nenyathelo elibalulekileyo uqinisekisa le nto ye-gender representation. Ukhankanya ubana out of 13 HODs, eziyi-6 ngoomama. Iyaqala uba khona loo nto, zange ibe khona ngaphambili. I-progress. esiqonda siyayiqhwabela izandla kakhulu loo nto. Xa unaye ku-HOD as an accounting officer e-department, uqinisekisa ubana kuyakwazi ukuphendulwa for into ezenziweyo, because ezinye into ezibangela ubana nakwi-audit outcomes kube ne-repetitive findings. Athi u-AG bethe kurongo le, aphinde athi kurongo kwale nto inye kunyaka ozayo. Ngoba ntoni? There is no accountability, there are no consequences for wrongdoing. So that nantsi into esiyithanishayo ngokule nto ye-consequences. Nobuqela kwi-administration, nobuqela kwi-councillors, sithetha kamandi ke from icala likaCocta. Kwi-last term besigxotha ii-councillors ikhuphe ngomnyango, zange yenzeke loo nto nakweyiphi province kuthiwe ugxotha ukansila, because bebeyazi into yobana ba-untouchable. But we have managed to do that to ensure that there are consequences. So yile nto siyithanishayo ke leyo ubheka phambili. Yeah, zezo zinto basically. Yeah.
Kodwa andikwazi kuye kuphuncule ngaphandle ubuze lo mbuzo. Ongabakhwetha abangabuyiyo esuthwini. Unyaka nonyaka nakulo unyaka lo kule season suka kuyo amanani avela utsiba amashumi amane mphathisa ngathi
Yayele msasazi kanti ibeka ngokuphandle. Le ngxaki imbonakalo ye-state of family. Ii-families ziphasalakile. Loo nto yenziwa ziinkalo ezininji. Iinkalo ze-underdevelopment eyinto ende lapha eprovinsini, uba namakhaya amaninzi abantu basebenza kooKapa, ootata, oorhawuti, kushiwo umama. Ezinye households zi-child-headed households. Kwalo mntwana olukayo ohlala yedwa. That's one. Okwesibini, kubekho ezi ngxaki zobana kusetyenziswe into yemali, kucommercializwe isiko. Kungena abantu abayimigewu, babe ziingcibi namakhankatha mbumbulu. So kukho ukusasaza kwamakhaya nokungakhathali kwamakhaya, ngoba le nto lisiko lona alibulali isiko. Akho mntana befana ubulawa lesiko. Kwenzeka into yobana unobangela futhi yokubhubha kwabantwana abaninzi kunqanwa. Xa umuntu enqaniwe mose awunqanwa ngoku bese ubhubha ngoku. Umuntu ovizithelwayo utata wakhe uzawufika athi unqaniwe awusela amanzi. Umntana phaa esuthwini amshiye phaa. Afake amakhankatha amngewu yonke laa nto. Siyazama ukuqinisa isandla ke kuloo nto. Yona ingxaki.
Ngokwenene asoze sigqibe yonke into namhlanje. Ndiyayazi uba isekhona ne-debate ezakwenzeka. Kuphinde kutatshwe ngezinye izinto ezi besizama namhlanje. Asinalo ixesha for today, but thank you so much for making the time to speak to us. Siya kulumka bheka indawo ngoku on the ground, our reporters, as we are coming to almost the end of our special broadcast of the State of the Province address. Lumka, over to you.
Enkosi zikhona, yeah, ifikelele esipheleni ngokwenene intetho yobume bephondo leMpuma Kapa. Ezinye zezinto ekathe wazikhankanya endicinga into yobana zezinye into endiphume nazo zinto ezifana nokulungiswa kwendlela ezibangela uba zibe ngumqobo abantwana abangakwazi ukuya ezikolweni. Ndathembisa into yobana ke bazokwazi uba bafikelele nasezilalini khona ukuze wonke umntu abe ne-access yohamba ayofunda, nabaye ezidolophini babe ne-access yohamba baye kwiindawo abadingakala uba baye kuzo. Lelethu zeziphi ezinye izinto oqonda uba inkulu baphathiswa ithe yakwazi ukutatsha kuzo?
I mean, I don't know. I think I would have loved to hear more concrete plans when it comes to dealing with the issue of GPV and femicide, especially in our province. But I mean, overall, it was a good speech, I guess. You know, as Wangama had said, it really is just what the person who is leading wants people to hear. But I mean, a lot of progress has been made, and I'm very happy about that. I mean, that is how the cookie crumbles. I'm looking very much forward to hearing and listening to the post-Sona debate. Ntombi, Nxolo.
Kuzo zonke iinkalo uDiya ufikelele kuzo, kodwa ke kulaa ndawo yabakhwetha ephondweni minyaka lena abalandulelayo eli akuthethwanga ngabo ncam. Bekungaske kube kanti ugxilile kuloo nto, ngoba kudala yiminyaka kukhalwa abantwana basiwe esuthwini kodwa abazali babuye bakhale ngento enye. Kungaske ke kube kanti ke kwagxilwa ke apho, kodwa ke zonke izinto ke ezingezinye ezifana ne-corruption, unemployment nezinye ke besifuna kuthethwe ngazo ke, kodwa uDiya ke ugxilile kuzo. Kungaske kodwa nezinye izinto azivelele kuzo angakhange avelele kuzo, kwaye zonke ezi zinto ke azithembisileyo zenzeke ngoba abantu bafuna izinto ezenzekayo inene kuthiwa ke action speaks louder than words.
Well, thank you, Ntoboxolo. That was Ntoboxolo Mabuyane, Lumka Bekindawo, and Lele Tungapi, who were our reporters on the ground this evening, who I think really got to get some good reactions as to what people think around the state of the province address this evening. And as we're about to wrap this thing up, I think it's only fair that we speak to our two gentlemen who've been joining us for this broadcast to just give us their last, thoughts, if anything. And I know it's not fair because there's a lot that we can go into, but just your thoughts, before the debate is going to happen, because we know that there will be also a debate. I'm going to start with you, Ongama, and then I'll go to you, Doctor, thereafter. Ongama?
So the political environment does affect the extent to which government performs. I'm very hopeful for the Eastern Cape. If you look at the warring factions at the level of the party, they don't bode well for the sustainability of the province at the government level. So my hope, as I wrap up, is that we will continue to have an enabling political environment. Believe me, believe me. What's the saying?
You me.
In whatever. Believe you me, yes. What we have as the mega projects that are here took a lot of political lobbying. When your political environment is debilitating, you just cannot be visionary. So we need to get that right, and I hope for the best for the province.
Nonso adimvanga ncam uPremier ethetha ngokuvulwa kweza firms afayo eDimbazi eCuwa naseFort Jackson. Uyivile into ebheka mhlawumbe inphosile.
Andimvanga Tata Msasazi kwa ethetha ngevula indlela erivembowayo industrial area, let alone iPathaworth. How are we going to get foreign investors to partner with locals to revive those factories near Dimbazi? Kodwa ke sithi, this is the home of legends. We're hoping that they will prioritize unemployment in this province. Practically, as they debate next week, but be honest. And whenever they talk, the people down there, those who are very poor, who are waiting, whose hope is dependent kwababantu that are elected abalapha benthetha nabo. Thina sisonke abepondweni, we rely on them. They are in charge of the fiscus. Our people are hungry. Iyangena imali iyaphuma, but we rely on our politicians to turn around this province to be a prosperous province that we know it to be.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I think we'd have to leave it there. There's so much that we can still go into, but there's a lot that will be discussed post this specific address. Well, that's how we're going to wrap things up.
Ukubantu balapha sibulela kakhulu ke kuni madoda benza njalo nangamso sibulela ke nakubaphulaphuli abamameli beMpuma Kapa Television bekumandi ke kubalapha siyayivala ke ngoku lezozo Indim no Z City Show.
Sharp, sharp.